Hi there, my name is Matthew, I'm an Australian-based filmmaker, and in my opinion, posthumous albums aren't necessarily a bad idea. For most musical artists, writing and making new music is a constant and never-ending process. A song idea can hit you whenever the moment strikes, and a lot of the time songs only have rough demos or scratch vocals recorded before another, better idea comes into the fray. And subsequently, a lot of these rough demos end up on the cutting room floor, locked away, never to be seen by the general public. But what happens to these songs when the artist in question passes away? Well, from a fan perspective, you'd want to keep the memory and legacy of the person alive and celebrate their music through the proliferation of unheard tracks and demos. And from a business perspective, you've got to keep that cash flow and brand notoriety strong, as unethical and morally dubious as that sounds. So usually, the most popular option to take is to scour the vault for these rough demos and scratch vocals, finish them off with new production, and release a new, posthumous album of unreleased music. And through this, many posthumous projects are framed as an encapsulation of the musical artist's ethos, and an emotional final send-off for their fans. Some see the posthumous album trend as an exploitative marketing strategy by record companies to try and artificially inject life into an artist's career lifespan by effectively putting garnish on their table scraps. And trust me, there have been plenty of examples of disastrous posthumous albums with incomplete vocals and haphazard feature inclusions, artificially extending the song's runtime that are released years after the artist themselves passes away. She said, "Oh my God, I changed your fucking life." Yeah. She said, "Oh my God, I changed your fucking life." Yeah. But I think, if framed and marketed properly, some posthumous albums can be worthy successors or effective tributes to the artist after they passed away. For example, Circles by Mac Miller is an excellent and critically lauded posthumous release that encapsulates who Mac Miller was as a rapper, finishing the behind-the-scenes recordings he was producing in the months before his death. John Lennon's Milk and Honey is another good example, a fitting tribute to a one-of-a-kind musical artist that has arguably one of his best ever songs released posthumously. And to a lesser extent, you have the Juice WRLD posthumous albums.
What the hell is even that?
With Legends Never Die in particular being one of my favourite tribute albums ever released, with hits like Wishing Well and Conversations. All of these albums, despite being incomplete in some areas, definitely encapsulate the appeal and musical legacy of the artist they are featuring. They give an inside look into their creative process, their headspace in different points of their career, and, if marketed appropriately, give fans a chance to continue supporting their legacy and music. But I know what you're all thinking. I just listed a bunch of albums from several modern musical artists, as well as John Lennon. But what about a timeless musical act, whose body of work spans over 4 decades? What about the posthumous albums of Michael Jackson?
The whole system is
So, when I did my MJ video, a lot of you were wondering whether I was going to talk about the posthumous Michael Jackson albums. And the main reason why I held off until making this full video is because of the sheer breadth of the internal controversy and external fan backlash surrounding these two releases. Throughout his creative life, Michael Jackson strived for perfection. Through recording each of his multi-platinum selling solo albums, he would compose dozens upon dozens of songs for potential inclusion. Jackson would then listen to each potential track for the album and craft the perfect track list, observing the quality of each individual song, as well as how each song played back to back with the others, similar to something like an audition for a movie. Furthermore, Jackson would continually refine this process, sometimes only having a finished track list only weeks before the album officially released. But Matthew, I hear you wondering, if MJ recorded dozens of songs for each album he made, what happened to all the unreleased material? Shouldn't we have like 24 albums worth of songs released? I mean, what happened to all the songs that didn't make the cut? Nah, not really, but a lot of the time Jackson would keep his unfinished tracks in the vault to come back to and work at a later date. See, it's not just you that struggles with crippling procrastination, MJ did as well. A key example of this is a short demo Jackson wrote in 1988 entitled What About Us? Written and recorded after the Bad sessions, Jackson recorded a simple vocal and piano demo and would then proceed to hold on to it in his song catalogue. That is, until 7 years later, when Jackson took it out of the vaults, fleshed it out, building it up into its final form, the masterful hit, Earth Song, released on History, Past, Present and Future Book 1 in 1995, which is one of my favourite songs on that album and one of the most poignant in Michael's catalogue. There are plenty of other examples of Jackson tracks or tracksons, many that we'll touch on throughout this video, but the point is, Jackson definitely left behind a collection of fleshed out, unreleased material, and unfortunately, where there's money to be made, someone's gonna be there to make it. Even if it means getting Justin Timberlake to finish it off.
You see, they call me Lake. Timberlake.
Let's talk about Michael Jackson's musical output throughout the 2000s, as it might give some insight into why the Michael Jackson estate would want to release posthumous projects of his music. The last original single Michael released in his lifetime was a one-off track in 2003 called One More Chance. A groovy, if mildly unremarkable ballad released as part of the Number One's compilation album. While it is a cool song in the right context, it didn't have the same poppy, groundbreaking energy seen on any of Jackson's studio albums, and so having this as the final song released during Jackson's lifetime was a bit of a bummer for fans, especially since it seemed like Jackson was having a bit of a midlife career renaissance from 2006 onward. For about 4 years, Jackson was constantly in the process of recording his next album. From travelling to state-of-the-art studios in Bahrain to record charity singles, to hanging out with will.i.am in Scotland where he would continue to refine his sound in the modern techno and pop musical atmosphere of the 2000s. But where the Michael Jackson career renaissance would reach its peak was with the release of Thriller 25. This album's biggest selling point was that it contained re-recorded versions of all the original album's biggest hits, featuring modern production and contemporary musical artists. On these new tracks, Jackson would collaborate with artists like Akon, Fergie, will.i.am and Kanye West. And despite what you think of these tracks these days, their release breathed new life into the Thriller album and definitely brought Michael Jackson's music back into the conversation surrounding Michael Jackson. Thriller 25 was complemented by the slow re-entry of Jackson into the public eye, with his 2006 performance of We Are the World at the World Music Awards showcasing just how much the public missed Michael Jackson and his music. These events and releases, although sparse, definitely signalled the soft launch to a new era for him. One that was shaping up to see a multi-generational chart-topping artist be reintroduced to a new 2010s audience with a new 2010 sound. Jackson would even say in interviews for Thriller 25 that he was already recording new music and that the best was yet to come. This was further perpetuated by Jackson's announcement of the This Is It shows, signalling his comeback as the king of pop and the imminent release of new music. So, when Michael Jackson died on June 25th, 2009, while there was an overwhelming amount of grief and mourning throughout the Michael Jackson fan community, there was also an air of disappointment due to the sheer drought of Michael Jackson music throughout the 2000s. Many fans, starved of new musical content, felt like the music that Jackson had continually been recording and working on throughout the 2000s needed to be released in order to celebrate the artist's legacy and prove that despite the wealth of tabloid junk targeted towards him throughout the decade, Michael Jackson was an artist that could continually create decade-defining work. And so, with the help of the Michael Jackson estate and various producers, collaborators and stakeholders, as we'll get into, we got the release of these two posthumous Michael Jackson albums, 2010's Michael and 2014's Xscape. By taking a quick glance at the critical reception and general fan consensus surrounding these albums, there's already cause for concern. Fake tracks? Remixes? What songs are even on these albums? When were they recorded? Why weren't they released during Jackson's lifetime? And why hasn't the Michael Jackson estate released another posthumous album in over a decade? A lot of questions I'm sure will get answered in this monumental review. Today, we're going to be doing a track-by-track analysis of the two posthumous Michael Jackson albums, looking into the development of each, seeing whether the material stacks up in comparison with MJ's already released albums, and much like my video on the Michael Jackson estate, seeing whether the people behind these albums do an effective job in reinforcing Michael's legacy and talent as a singer and songwriter. Plus, it'll be fun to talk about that 50 Cent feature.
It was decided the album needed to be properly completed in a thoughtful, dignified way that would honor Michael's legacy.
So, take yourself back to 2010. You're trying not to die from swine flu, you've just been back from the movie theatre to watch Remember Me? Clearly, no one else does.
Gandhi said that whatever you do in life will be insignificant, but it's very important that you do it. I tend to agree with the first part.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in.
And most importantly, it's only been around a year since Michael Jackson passed away. It's still raw, I'm sure. After the tremendous commercial and financial success of the This Is It multimedia extravaganza, which saw the release of the first ever posthumous song of the same name, the estate and Sony Music wanted more. How could you want more MJ music? We've only had none this past decade. Cut to March 2010. A $250 million deal is brokered that allowed Sony Music to produce new posthumous Michael Jackson musical projects. This was an unprecedented amount of money for a simple multimedia deal at the time, granting Sony the rights to release Jackson's back catalogue, as well as up to 10 new musical projects or albums by 2017, with the only caveat being that the Michael Jackson estate needed to participate and sign off on each new project. Look, I'm sure that the estate and Sony Music would both want to pursue posthumous musical projects regardless if there was a deal set in writing, but nevertheless, work began on the very first posthumous Michael Jackson album. And here it is. I actually managed to find an original copy of the Michael album when I was on holiday in Canada last year. But for this review, while it is great to have the CD of course, I'd like to experience these two albums in a little bit of a different way that I think will get me more into the mindset of a 2010s Michael Jackson fan. And it starts with this. This is my 2005 iPod Classic. And I'm sure for a lot of you, this was your main method of music listening throughout the late 2000s and early 2010s, before the likes of streaming immediately toppled that market. Wait, $2.19 for a single song? I could have bought chips! And what do you know, I actually managed to purchase the full Michael album in 2010 as preserved on my iPod in its original form. Or at least that's the narrative I'm using for this video. Don't look at that! So, the Michael album. Given the absolute media shitstorm Jackson faced throughout the 2000s, the Michael Jackson estate wanted to put out a project that would not only showcase the new 2000s sound Jackson was refining throughout the decade, but also to release it as the unfinished final Michael Jackson album, sticking only to songs that he'd been refining throughout the late 2000s. And that was the interesting thing about the Michael album. The estate and Sony Music decided on the objectives of the album before they scoured the vaults and listened to the tracks to see if they were releasable. While there were a small number of songs from this period that were finished, as it turned out, there weren't as many as the estate had hoped. And the original vision of the project could have been shelved as a result. That was until more unreleased songs came into the possession of the estate thanks to one key individual. Enter Eddie Cascio, a member of the Cascio family and up-and-coming recording engineer who had been close friends with Michael Jackson in the final years of his life. In mid-2010, Cascio came to the Jackson estate with an album's worth of tracks that he claimed Jackson had recorded at his home studio in the fall of 2007. The estate, slightly starved of late 2000s Michael demos, jumped at the opportunity and included 3 of the tracks on this new album. What could possibly go wrong? Anyway, in order to get the album fast-tracked for the 2010 holiday season, the estate fired on all cylinders, bringing in many of the skilled collaborators Jackson had worked with in the past. On top of artists like Akon and Nephew, who'd helped record some of the original demos, acclaimed musical producer Teddy Riley was also brought in to remix the tracks and give them a fresh 2010 sound while still retaining the poppy essence of a Michael Jackson record. And at a glance, this is a great personnel list for a Michael Jackson album. The mix of a tried and tested producer who had worked with Jackson in the past to produce some of Jackson's best hits in the Dangerous era, as well as newer collaborators that could give the project a contemporary stroke and better inform Riley of Jackson's intentions for the songs. And regarding the songs themselves, I'm quite excited to hear them. Jackson's last album, Invincible, is a great example of him reinventing his sound for a new musical landscape, and the marketing material for Michael gave the impression that Jackson was doing the same for his latest album, but just didn't get the chance to finish it in his lifetime. And just like that, in December of 2010, The Estate and Sony Music released Michael, with some honestly stellar cover artwork from Kadir Nelson that gives off an anthology feeling. It's really nice. Let's go through the album track by track to see whether Michael is the career swan song The Estate had planned. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. I've been giving off a lot of red flags throughout this background spiel, and that from the gate the Michael album must disappoint with subpar songs. But that's actually wrong, as the first song we are treated to is the wonderfully emotional Hold My Hand. This is a fabulous song to start off the album with. Originally recorded in 2008, only a year before Jackson's passing, Hold My Hand is a fresh, modern love anthem in collaboration with R&B superstar Akon. Unfortunately, a rough demo of the song leaked onto the internet that same year, and we were robbed of what could have been the perfect career comeback song for MJ. But in the creation of this album, Akon was brought back in to properly finish the song and give it a more regal, orchestral sound. What I love about Hold My Hand is that it ticks all the boxes for a modern Michael Jackson song. The track begins with a crescendo of orchestral strings which emanate a rousing feeling, like Jackson is being resurrected for one last song. We then blast into a boomy, poppy synth lead that is not only a perfect mix of Jackson's elegance and pop style, but also the most 2010 sound imaginable, and it's kind of iconic for that. Hold My Hand is also great because it doesn't feel like an incomplete song at all. It has full MJ vocals on both verses and the chorus, as well as full ad-libs, harmonies, and backing throughout, which is kind of insane given the song's background as a collaboration with Akon. Akon isn't half bad on this song either. I know it's hard to picture him not singing a song about having sex in collaboration with Andy Samberg, but you can tell he's amped to be working with MJ and giving 110% in the process. It's great. The lyrics of the song are lovely as well, and strangely poignant given Jackson's passing. The pair discuss the finite amount of time we all have, and to break down all preconceived walls, accepting love by simply holding someone's hand. A perfect sentiment given Jackson's outlook on life. While some may see the linear staccato production as a little bit dated, I think it's quite similar to something like Man in the Mirror synth lead, where although it is typical of a musical era, you can definitely still sway a lighter to it. And before we move on to the next song, I wanted to list my top 3 favourite moments from each song as we go down the track list, where I discuss small details that really resonated with me in some way. The first thing I wanted to note in Hold My Hand is this silly little tag Akon sings at the beginning of the song. I love that Akon says his name before MJ, like he really wanted to flex that he was on a Michael Jackson song. Even though MJ clearly has more vocals in this final mix. The second thing I wanted to call out are those little call and responses in the verses. And no matter how sinister the lyrics of the vocals are, we are always treated to a... It's a little cheesy, but very, very MJ. And the third thing I love about Hold My Hand is Michael's performance on the song. Remember that it had been around 7 years since the first contemporarily recorded MJ song was released. So it's so nice to hear a mature voiced Jackson sing with calculated reservation in the verses before going all out in the choruses and bridge. I absolutely love this moment where Jackson sings with such a bite. You can tell he loved this song so much. As do I, man. Hold My Hand is such a rousing anthem to start this song off with. And I could probably list another 10 things I love about this song, but we have to move on. Even though it is the first song on Michael, it may be a contender for my favourite song on it. That is until we get to the next track, Hollywood Tonight. Also, if you're wondering why the tracks for the Michael album are a little bit skewed, the way I imported them from legal sources, sure, big much legal sources, has meant that it messed up the track list. So, yeah, there you go. That's that. Bro, what was Michael Jackson cooking in the 2000s? This song is actually insane. The story of a down-on-her-luck starlet that sees making it in Hollywood as her last resort. Originally recorded during the Invincible sessions, Hollywood Tonight is a song that MJ would continually refine and tweak for inclusion on his next album. And honestly, before we get into the remixed final version, I wanted to shout out some of the earlier demos of Hollywood Tonight that have leaked onto the internet in recent years. We have a full leak of a demo from around the time of Invincible, and although there is a bridge missing from this version of the song,
Bridge, you keep the loop drums going here.
I think this version actually feels more complete than the final mix, given a very overt lyric inclusion that exposes the sinister meaning behind Hollywood Tonight. So yeah, that line really gives proper context to the overall message of this song. Now, let's give the Michael album version of Hollywood Tonight a listen to see all the new production elements and how they translated this original message into this new version. Unbelievable. This may sound like hyperbole given how much I was just raving about Hold My Hand, but I'm not okay with this posthumous lyric change. Cutting out this line does nothing except censor MJ's written lyrics and play down the very serious, very real narrative that Jackson was singing about in the original demo. I'm serious, you cannot alter lyrics that are so paramount to the original meaning of the song just because they sound a little bit raw for a general listening audience. MJ wanted it like that, so they should stay that way on the album. Period. But despite the obvious censoring on the part of Sony Music and the Jackson estate, the Michael version of Hollywood Tonight still manages to power through and be a pretty good interpretation of the original demo. One inclusion I absolutely love is the Michael Jackson beatboxing a cappella that lies underneath the track. Jackson loved to beatbox and had hip-hop influences in his later era songs, so including his raw beatboxing vocals throughout the entire track is a fabulous production decision on the part of Teddy Riley. Plus, the beatboxing itself is so groovy, man, it jives so well with the other production elements of the song. Speaking of these other production elements, oh my god, this song is so luscious and full, and it's a treat to listen to. I know this is a small thing, but I adore the backing harmonies that play in the choruses of the song. They build on Jackson's vocals so effectively. This is especially the case in the final moments of the song, when all the different production elements gradually begin stripping away until all we hear is Jackson's beatboxing and these amazing harmonies.
She's Hollywood. She's Hollywood.
It sounds fabulous, groovy, and kind of sinister as well. The final thing I wanted to gush over is this penultimate moment of the song, where a militaristic reverbed whistle is used that really reinforces the original vision of Hollywood Tonight, showcasing the City of Angels as a false paradise that millions of starry-eyed youths trek to every day like lambs to the slaughter. I like Hollywood though. It's got Universal Studios in it, I don't know. Despite the estate's attempt to gut the song by senselessly censoring Michael's lyrics, which I must reiterate is detestable, Hollywood Tonight is still a really great track that I believe is on the level of some of MJ's best songs from History and Invincible. The choir at the beginning of the song just resonates Who Is It of Dangerous. Like, this is a modern Michael Jackson record through and through. If you ever get the chance, listen to the Invincible demo of the song with the unaltered lyrics and the snippets from a 2008 version of the song that have recently leaked that sound just as amazing as the Michael version, if not better. What a great start to the Michael album. Let's get on to the third track here, entitled Keep Your Head Up.
You gotta keep your head up.
No, not that Keep Your Head Up, but let's talk about it. Keep Your Head Up is what is known in the MJ fan circles as the first out of 3 Casio tracks on the album. Referred to as such due to the fact that they were recorded, mixed, and given to the estate by Eddie Casio. And trust me, we will get into the story behind the Casios and the Michael album soon enough, but let's keep that card in our hand and give this song a fair and honest listen to judge its production and quality. Keep Your Head Up is a spacey pop ballad similar in vein to Hold My Hand. The song tells the story of a down on her luck girl that only needs to keep her head up and appreciate the beauty of the world around her. Just listening to the production of this song, it is nice, but it is a lot more bland than the first 2 tracks. There's just something off about this song. Like the final chorus, it should be firing on all cylinders. MJ should be ad-libbing all over the place, but here, the choir and backing production is doing most of the heavy lifting, which feels quite strange after hearing tracks like Hold My Hand, which was supposedly recorded around the same period. But you know what? There are things that I do like about this song, mainly with its production. First, I really do like the inclusion of an acoustic guitar in the opening bars of the song. Honestly, I'm a total sucker for the acoustic guitar, and it acts as a really cozy, domestic feeling addition to this song. Plus, MJ didn't really use a ton of acoustic guitars in his already released works, so its addition here is a unique spin on the classic MJ sound. The second thing I wanted to shout out is the most granular, insignificant production element that has no relevance to the meaning of the song. I really love this spacey synth effect that is used here in the second verse.
The earth from under me.
It gives off Mario Galaxy vibes, and I'm kind of here for it. That's probably the first time anyone has ever praised this aspect of production on Keep Your Head Up on the Michael album. Can't say you came here for broad strokes content, can you? The final thing I like about this song is the choir's performance on the back end of Keep Your Head Up. I know I was critiquing the choir earlier for staying at one level and not really giving more of a crescendo, but I absolutely love how they end the track with a big staccato bang. Such a powerful way to end the track. Even if, for this song on the album, Michael Jackson isn't really singing on it.
People were saying that Michael's voice is fake on the track that you worked on.
Believe me, this is really Michael's voice.
Yeah.
Whoever says whatever,
I mean,
I really don't care what anybody say about it.
This is Michael's voice. And so many people, including some of the family, they doubt that it's him. But
the next song on the Michael album is I Like the Way You Love Me. This song is quite interesting actually, as it had already been released prior to Jackson's death on the excellent box set Michael Jackson: The Ultimate Collection. However, it was discovered that following this small-scale release, Jackson continued to work on the track, likely for possible inclusion on his 11th album. Now, what we hear on the Michael album isn't that iteration, but a whole new remix of the song headed by record producer Neff U, a titan in the US pop producing scene. So, how is he done with remixing this Michael Jackson song? Well, it's certainly a song. I'm conflicted about this one, as while there are elements that I really do like, I come away with the feeling that this song is rather unremarkable, unfortunately. Firstly, what's the deal with the parenthesized name? Do you really need to specify that The Way You Love Me is something that is liked? I think that's kind of self-explanatory. And so we went out for a dinner and went to a movie. Oh, so you liked it? The way she loved you? No, I hated it actually. Boom. Skit. Anyway, another issue I have with this song is how far Nephew strayed away from the original demo's production elements. Key elements of the song's backing that were in all the Jackson-produced iterations of the song are noticeably absent in this remix. Which, if you think about it, kind of flies in the face of the original vision for Michael, to complete the original version of Michael Jackson's unfinished album. Aside from my more moral issues with the song, I think for the most part this remix is fine. It gives off the feeling of a romantic montage in a Sandra Bullock romantic comedy or something. It's just such a bright song with a nice jive to it. But I know what you're all here for. What are my favourite 3 moments from I Like the Way You Love Me? Well, I'm glad you asked. The first thing I like actually occurs right at the beginning, with an answering machine recording playing of Michael breaking down the different elements of the song, which then leads into the piano and drums building on Michael's over-the-phone instructions. This is such a creative way to start the song, and it really differentiates this version from the already released demo. It showcases the idea that Michael Jackson had a full vision for this track, but wasn't able to act on it in his lifetime, thus framing the song as a tribute piece to his creative process. The second thing I think is so great about this song is the way that Nephew has framed the harmonies in the verses as well. Just listen to this moment and it should tell you all you need to know.
You took my hand and you told me you loved me.
It's just so godly. It reminds me of something off of a late stage Beatles song like Here, There and Everywhere.
Making each day of the year.
The final thing I wanted to mention in The Way You Love Me is how many goddamn key changes there are in this song. Like, it actually gets ridiculous.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one.
Like, that's 5. That is 5 fucking key changes in the span of about 40 seconds. It's like that Endless Stairs song from Mario 64. It's genuinely impressive how many octaves Michael Jackson increases in this song. I'm flabbergasted. So, I like The Way You Love Me. It's a decent, if unremarkable track. It does make sense that not all the tracks on this album will be lead singles. Call this one the Just Good Friends of the Michael album. But you know what, I really hope the next track is another poppy banger and not a dated bore or another Casio track. The next song on the Michael album is the second Casio track, Monster, starring 50 Cent, for fuck's sake. Monster is another track that was written and produced by Eddie Casio and is sort of framed as the Halloween-themed thriller-esque track for this album. As we know, Jackson really loved to make spooky Halloween songs, with hits like Thriller, Ghost, and Threatened. And I love those tracks, so I should surely love this one, right? Nope. This is the worst song on the Michael album for me. Firstly, the production on this track feels so bare, it is insane. It's literally just a beat and some emphasis stings. The track itself feels empty and incomplete, which is further emphasized by the vocal chopping of Jackson's vocals on the back half of the record. Just listen to this vocal chopping. It sounds like the Franken biting on an episode of Love Island.
Not getting any romantic signals from Britney at all.
And to add insult to injury, they decided to get acclaimed rapper and social media troller 50 Cent to perform a comatose verse on the track that has such a cringe-worthy lyrical miracle vibe to it. Cannibal edition. That doesn't hold a candle to any of the rap verses on Invincible or any other MJ rap song, to be honest. I really had to rack my brain for things I like about this song. I guess the backing drum beats throughout the track sound like they're coming from a Sega Genesis sound chip. So that's pretty cool, even though it probably wasn't intentional. What else? I like this little ad-lib in the second chorus. Like, it sounds neat given there aren't many newly recorded ad-libs on this song. And the final thing I like about Monster is that it exposed the Michael album as a fraud. Give this bit a listen. You can look at them coming out the walls. You can look at them climbing out the bushes. Call my baby telling her I'm on my way. As you can hear, the vocal performance on this song highlights that Michael Jackson never sung on the Casio track.
Whether you like it or not, that's Michael singing on that album. I have never, ever in my entire life, ever heard of Jason Malachi.
Something fishy's going on here. And I'm not talking about what Michael Jackson thinks of attractive women.
That's a good fish right there.
That's kind of crazy, I can't lie. Let's move on. We're over halfway through the Michael album. We've had some highs, we've had some airs, and we've had a definite low in the form of Monster. But thankfully, on our next track, order is restored in true Michael Jackson fashion as we listen to Best of Joy.
I am your joy, your best of joy. I am the moonlight, you are the spring. Our lives are sacred thing.
Wait, hold on, Mr. Jackson. I think I'm having a flashback.
The next track is The Toy. A nice song all around, I like it. The only parts of The Toy that don't sound so great are the choruses. The lyrics, I'm your toy, I'm your boy, just sound a bit icky to me. I don't know, it just makes me cringe a little bit. I wonder if MJ ever did a re-record of this song.
Yep, you see what I did there? I used tactical foreshadowing in my estate video because I already knew that MJ recorded The Toy in a much more concise and effective way. I'm a real filmmaker. So yes, this track Best of Joy is another example of MJ taking a classic unused song out of the vault and refitting it for inclusion on his next project. Originally recorded as the song The Toy during the Thriller sessions, a song that we lightly touched on in my Thriller 40 review. This song sees MJ use the same basic lyrics and structure as the demo, but this version is a more acoustic, natural, ambient piece in comparison to the more regal piano sound of that original demo. I'm really pleased to say that Best of Joy is another amazing song in a similar category to Hold My Hand and Hollywood Tonight. I absolutely love this song. What makes it really powerful is that according to the estate, MJ recorded new vocals for the song in late 2008. So Best of Joy may be the last song MJ ever worked on in his lifetime. And with that knowledge, this song is such an emotional gut punch. And quite a poignant encapsulation of everything Jackson stood for as an artist and human. In the final year of his life, Jackson sings about how he and his music changed the lives of millions of listeners around the world, and how no matter the hardships, he and his music will always be there, and that he is forever. Are you crying yet? Because I'm nearly about to. It's so great hearing that Jackson recognises the impact he had with his music, and his vocal performance is understated but comforting. The production on this song is so tranquil too, using acoustic guitars and orchestral strings alongside a poppy drum beat. Okay, you know how good this song is? It literally makes me want to frolic in a field. Best of Joy makes me want to fucking frolic. And all the problems that I had with the original demo of this song, like the sus lyrics and dated production, have all been fixed. This could have been the perfect lead single to Jackson's 11th studio album, and honestly, I think Best of Joy is on the level of posthumous releases like Grow Old With Me by John Lennon or Wishing Well from Juice WRLD. How this song was not released as a lead single for the Michael album as well continues to boggle my mind. It's literally the epitome of Michael Jackson as a human, not an artist or a public figure, but as a human. What, you thought I was going to give my negatives to this song? Bitch, there are no negatives to Best of Joy. My first small bit of appreciation for Best of Joy comes from the understated brilliance of the backing choir that plays under Jackson's vocals. They really strengthen the naturalism of the song and again give off Man in the Mirror vibes. But more strongly, I can't stop thinking about MJ's vocal performance here, man. Compare this with Keep Your Head Up. In that song, the vocals felt so hollow and clouded in the mix, with little variation from the same lyrical structure. But in Best of Joy, the amount of tonal control Jackson displays is out of this world. How he's able to effortlessly switch between his signature falsetto and his more natural singing timbre, it's actually unreal. It's certainly odd that MJ can sound so different between this and tracks like Monster and Keep Your Head Up, despite these tracks being recorded only 2 years apart. And the final thing that really completes Best of Joy as one of the album's best tracks is the gradual fade out at the end. As the harmonies and instruments fade down, the ad-libs of Jackson continue to play out. Not only does this thematically make sense given the lyrical content of the song, but it acts as a perfect send-off song that will definitely make you tear up while listening to it. Like, this man had so many more amazing songs and albums to release, but was cut down just before he was about to make his reappearance into the public spotlight. It's such a shame. However, In the end, Michael was right. Since his passing, the popularity of his music has outlasted several artists from the same era. His dance moves and signature style have remained unmatched and unparalleled even in our modern tech-infused era, and it's very clear that, like Jackson sings in this song, he is and always will be forever. Oh man, I was scared for a second. I thought that the Michael album had peaked with Hollywood Tonight. But I'm happy to report that Best of Joy may be tied up there for my favourite song on the Michael album. A+ material right here. What's next on the track list? It must be on the same level, if not better than Best of Joy, if they were able to put a song like that in the middle of the album with 4 more songs left on it. Hit me with the next one. Track 7 is Breaking News, the third and final Casio track, and according to everyone online ever, the most controversial song on this album. The track begins with a growing crescendo of diegetic news footage soundbites and other news rabble, all referencing the same target, Michael Jackson. Not only is this intro quite powerful given the media circus Jackson faced throughout the 2000s, but it also acts as a great homage to all the media-related songs from Jackson albums past, like Leave Me Alone, Tabloid Junkie, and Privacy. It all sounds good so far, and the beat that smashes through the soundbites is poppy and Invincible-esque. Okay, I'm strapped in. I'm ready for MJ to start clapping back at his naysayers. Hit me, Estate.
Everybody wanting a piece of Michael Jackson.
Okay,
This is Michael's voice. And so many people, including some of the family, they doubt that it's him. But we professionally, we've been around him.
Whether you like it or not, it's Michael singing on that album. I have never, ever in my entire life ever heard of Jason Malachi up until this happened.
Why does the vocal on this song sound nothing like Michael Jackson? Why does he refer to himself in the third person? Why is his voice in a lower register than literally the last song? Why have they reused sound bites from previous MJ songs? Why does he ad-lib the word Jackson in such a sexually seductive way?
This is a fraudulent song. It is so blatantly obvious, given everything we've listened to up until this point, that Michael Jackson did not sing on the Casio tracks.
Are we going to talk about the Casio track controversy? Alright, strap in, folks. So, the thing I've sort of been avoiding throughout this review of the Michael album is the controversy behind the legitimacy of Jackson's vocals on Keep Your Head Up, Monster, and Breaking News. It turns out that Breaking News was the first song ever previewed from the Michael album on November 8th, 2010. From the moment the song dropped, tens of thousands of Michael Jackson fans have claimed with very strong evidence that Michael Jackson did not in fact sing lead vocals on this song. But who, I hear you ask, is singing on these tracks? It couldn't have been AI, this was a decade before that technological development, so who is the person? Producer Eddie Cascio claimed that the Casio tracks were recorded and mixed at his home studio in 2007, with the man even giving a studio tour in a making of documentary for the album that I'll get into a little bit later. In the documentary, Casio claims that the reason why Michael's vocals sound so weird is due to the irregular recording space in the studio, as well as the heavy amount of auto-tuning software needed to clean up Michael Jackson's voice. Sure, buddy. You want to hear a differing opinion as to why it sounds like an impersonator is singing lead vocal on the Casio tracks? Well, enter Jason Malachi, an Italian-American singer, songwriter, and sheriff's deputy, what the fuck, whom people believe actually sang on all 3 of the Casio tracks, which were then bought by the Michael Jackson estate and fraudulently advertised as Michael Jackson songs. Now, I'm sure to many of you this sounds like a wild, outrageous conspiracy theory, and dude, I wish this was a conspiracy theory. But I tell you what, let's do an experiment so you can be the judge of whether Michael Jackson actually sang on the Casio tracks. Here is an a cappella recording of a song that we know for a fact Jackson sung in 2007.
This life don't last forever. Hold my hand. So tell me what we're waiting for.
Now let's listen to that Casio track again.
Everybody wanting a piece of Michael Jackson. Reporters stuck in the moves of Michael Jackson.
Still not convinced? Let me play one of Jason Malachi's songs alongside the Casio tracks.
My baby telling her I'm on my way. She's looking for a job and to find a place to stay. I asked her why you crying, baby, dry your eyes. He's coming at you rather too fast. Mama say mama got you in a zigzag. She told me to stop faking, I'm tired of all your lies. So baby, you keep on breaking the news. Breaking the news.
To me, the voices sound completely different. They have different vibrato and different pitch. They're just not the same person, in my opinion.
Cold inside. She cries inside.
The voices sound different. The voices sound different. I literally feel like that It's Always Sunny meme with Charlie Day and the pinboard. Like, how did we even get here? Well, it's a massive story involving the Michael Jackson estate, producer Teddy Riley, and of course, the Casio family. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend listening to the amazing podcast series, Faking Michael by Damian Shields. Throughout the 14 episodes, Damian exposes how throughout this whole process, the estate were likely aware that the tracks were fraudulent, but were contractually obligated to include them on the final album. It's a fascinating listen and a great expose of how Sony Music, the Casio family, and inadvertently the Michael Jackson estate attempted to defraud the public by, allegedly, releasing songs on an officially licensed Michael Jackson album and billing them as written and sung by Jackson, when in reality they were sung by an impersonator with the weirdest vibrato I've ever heard in a singing voice. Plus, not only has producer Teddy Riley come out and all but confirmed that Michael Jackson didn't sing on these songs.
Do you think that those were actually Michael's vocals or not?
If I tell you today,
right now,
I can tell you right now that no. I was, influenced and pushed to say the things that was said.
But Jason Malachi, the man himself, has also come out and all but alluded to the fact that he sung on these Michael Jackson songs. As a result, no matter how amazing songs like Hold My Hand, Hollywood Tonight, and Best of Joy are, the Casio track controversy immediately invalidates the Michael album as a fraud. And as the first posthumous Michael Jackson album, it definitely called into question the validity of future estate projects. Like, this is the first posthumous Michael Jackson album, and already we're questioning the legitimacy of the vocals and whether they were actually sung by Michael Jackson. That is crazy. In my opinion, the Michael album controversy is definitely on the same level of damage to Jackson's legacy as that documentary. And it's definitely one of the most shameful things the estate has approved of, even if the growing theory is that they themselves were duped into releasing the fake tracks on the album. And what's more, as we've discovered, the Casio tracks are the worst songs on the Michael album. They're just so cookie cutter and one note. It's like, oh, we've got to make a spooky song for this album. MJ loved spooky songs, so let's call it Monster. Oh, Jackson sure did love his humanitarian anthems. Let's just make one that is kind of that, but doesn't really reference any deep-seated political topical theme. That's keep your head up. And in a similar fashion, Jackson had always written songs about his distaste for the media. Let's just rip off Tabloid Junkie and Privacy, as well as Bobby Brown's My Prerogative for some reason.
Everybody's talking all this stuff about me now. Everybody wanting a piece of Michael Jackson.
And that is breaking news. A hollow imitation of Jackson's anti-media tracks past that, like Monster, I can't really think of anything good to talk about. The controversy surrounding this whole Casio fiasco just overwhelms any positive feelings I can have about these songs. Why would Michael Jackson sing about himself in the third person? I literally can't think of any other song where he does that. Why are the lyrics so damn simplistic? MJ would never even touch a song like this, let alone sing on it. I was able to find the positives and keep your head up solely on the grounds of the good production of the song, but as a whole, these three Casio songs sound like if AI was used to make a Michael Jackson song. they're all imitations of other better Jackson songs, where the main singer sounds nothing like Michael Jackson. And the fact that they appear on an official posthumous release, let alone the first posthumous release, is downright shameful. I would again highly recommend Faking Michael. It gives more insight and information on the situation than I could ever give. And for now, I think we should move past the Casio tracks. As shameful and disgusting as they are only 30% of this 10-track album. And we still have 3 more songs to get through before I give my final thoughts. But let me just say, the Casio track controversy will definitely affect my final grade of the Michael album. Why do I sound like such a teacher? See me after class, Eddie Casio.
All right, listening.
The next track on this album is I Can't Make It Another Day. Firstly, that title is so real. And secondly, what's the deal with this album and parenthesized titles? I'm only kidding. In contrast to the other demos, this track is a holdover from Invincible. And yet another collaboration, this time with rock songwriter Lenny Kravitz. According to Kravitz, this song was basically completed and ready to release on Invincible, however was dropped at the last minute as Jackson felt the hard rock sound didn't tonally match the lo-fi R&B beats from the rest of the track list. However, Jackson would always tell Lenny that Another Day would have a place on his next album, and well, here we are. And God, I'm so glad that despite the controversy surrounding the Casio tracks, the songs the estate have chosen that are sung by Michael Jackson are firing on all cylinders. This is an energy-filled rock track that sees Jackson reflect on his tumultuous personal life, travelling around the world and being adored by millions, but in turn negating personal relationships and bonds as a result of this stardom. The track begins with a powerful gong ringing out, as a regal orchestra plays an ominous and intimidating walk down of the notes. Jackson then fires on all cylinders in the chorus, screaming out splitting phrases with perfect accuracy and bite. This song definitely wakes you up from the comatose state of breaking news, and while it maybe isn't on the same level as the earlier songs in the album due to the fact that it is just an unused song from Invincible, it is still a great track, and I believe it was a perfect inclusion for this album. The first thing I wanted to shout out was Lenny Kravitz's amazing contributions to the track. This is a different kind of duet to Hold My Hand, as here, Kravitz mainly acts as the lower register backing singer to Jackson's soaring lead vocals. On top of that, the searing guitar solo Kravitz performs before the final chorus is absolutely perfect. Well in line with the Van Halen and Slash guitar solos of Michael Jackson rock tracks past. Another funny element to this song is the ad-lib Michael shouts during the guitar solo in this song. I know he's saying "go on babe," but when I was a kid I used to think he was saying "go and play." Like damn, I didn't know Michael Jackson took parenting that seriously. I'll go and play with my Legos, Michael, it's fine. The final thing I love about Another Day are how referential and introspective the lyrics are to Michael's life. He talks about how his career ambitions have taken him all over the world, beyond the planets and the stars. However, no matter how hard he tries, his personal life and relationships remain tumultuous. It's really great to hear MJ break down his inner insecurities like this. This was recorded only a few years after his divorce from Lisa Marie Presley after all, so perhaps some of these references, like the lyrics "How will I get through this storm, I walked away when I was wrong," are in relation to MJ feeling guilt about how it all ended between the two. This introspection is par for the course though with Invincible era Jackson, as that album was strengthened by how personal each song felt to Jackson's own struggles, so hearing more of that is excellent, especially given the album's status as a posthumous project. So yeah, I Can't Make It Another Day is another great track to add to the list for the Michael album. It's got great lyrics, Lenny Kravitz kills it on the track. I'd even say it's on the same level of quality as Given to Me from Dangerous. And I'm really happy the Michael Jackson estate were able to keep to Jackson's word and honour Kravitz by putting his song on the album like Jackson promised all those years ago. It's good that the Michael album is getting on track after that whole Casio controversy. Let's see what's next in the track list. Oh, track 9 is Behind the Mask. Wait, Behind the Mask? I'm having another flashback.
Track 5 is Behind the Mask Mike's Mix, which is weird because I don't actually recall any other version of Behind the Mask that isn't Mike's Mix, but here we are. And hey, if the estate ever decides to remix Behind the Mask, I'm sure it would sound pretty sweet.
I'm really killing it with the foreshadowing today. I should be on Neighbours.
Everybody needs good neighbors.
Yes, the classic Thriller era demo was taken out of the vault for a special 2010 remix on the Michael album. So is this song a great inclusion? Well, I'm conflicted, man. As we know from my Thriller 40 review, Behind the Mask is a demo based very strongly off of the backing of the YLO song of the same name. And in this new remixed version by co-estate executor John McClane, hello, those same vocals from the demo are used. So, in contrast to the rest of the tracks on the album that were either sung by Jackson in the late 2000s, or allegedly sung by Jackson in the late 2000s, jeez. Here, we have a spruced up demo from the 1980s. And my problem with this is that it flies in the face of the original vision for the Michael album, collating all the songs MJ was working on at the time of his death. If that's so, why is this Thriller demo here? Anyway, despite my issues with the song's placement on the album, this brand new version of Behind the Mask is a really well produced upgrade of the song. All my issues I had with the Mike's Mix demo have been rectified, such as the weird vocal cutouts and poor audio quality. In truth, McClane has done a great job at chopping up all the various vocal bits to make a coherent song. And it's really interesting to listen to the Thriller 40 demo and piece together each of the little bits that were amalgamated into this remix. Furthermore, despite the intense cutting and shaping of the vocals, the essence of the original demo is still present in Behind the Mask. The production doesn't deviate heavily from that of the original YLO backing, and the inclusion of the vocoder effects on the call and response is a really nice touch. To me, this is the definitive version of Behind the Mask out of the two. Or three if you count the YLO song. And of course, I've got my top 3 favourite moments, so here we go. There's only one word that I need to use to describe what I love about Behind the Mask. Saxophone. Not only does a bluesy, rousing saxophone solo enter us into the song, but once the song is up and running, we get another solo that absolutely brings the house down. I literally feel like an extra in the film Whiplash, except here, J.K. Simmons isn't abusing me, and I can actually enjoy the quality of the music. In a similar stride to the saxophonist, the song is further strengthened by American R&B singer Shanice, who completes Jackson's call and response vocals and bookends the song with some tremendous belting. It's so crazy hearing our call and response through time from 1980s Michael back to 2010 Shanice. It's really neat. I wonder if Michael will be happy with the quality of these remixes on the album. It's not a critique, I'm just wondering. The final thing I really like about Behind the Mask is McCain's vision to refit the song as an honorary tribute to Jackson's touring career. The song begins with crowd noises taken from Jackson's Dangerous World tour, and we later hear Jackson's classic call and response act that he would use at every show in the bridge of the song. I don't know how much relevance these additions have to the lyrics of the song, but you know what? It sounds really seamless against McCain's modern production, and it does act as an excellent celebration of the blood, sweat, and tears Jackson would put into his tours, and how they contributed to the mask of his persona. Okay, Behind the Mask. Great track, little relevance to the vision of the project, but I'm glad it's here. But you know what? That is fine because we are now at the final song of this strange, confusing album. Think of all the final songs on Jackson albums past. Dangerous, Threatened, Smile. Can the Jackson estate end the Michael album with a song that absolutely brings the house down? A song that could have been Jackson's comeback single? A song that vindicates the album's flaws and frauds? Well, no. We get Much Too Soon. A 1995 history demo that is less than 3 minutes long and is an understated acoustic ballad. And you know what? Despite this song not being a big album closer or not being recorded in the 2000s, that's okay. Because I think Much Too Soon is fabulous. Every other song on Michael has had big beefy production, with a goal to make it as modern sounding as possible. But here on Much Too Soon, all we have is Jackson, an acoustic guitar, and an understated collation of stringed instruments. In this song, Jackson sings about a lost love from his past, as he laments how he wished he spent more time with her and didn't rush his actions and mess up his future with potentially the one. Bit of a metaphor for the behind the scenes of this album, don't you think? The simplicity of Much Too Soon is its greatest strength. Jackson's vocals are absolutely top-notch and guide us through the song with a powerful acoustic guitar played by Australia's own Tommy Emmanuel, acting as the perfect backbone. The first thing that completes this track for me is a subtle but expert use of an accordion in key moments throughout the song. As out of place as an accordion sounds on a Michael Jackson track, it really does work here, and gives off the feeling of walking by yourself through a small Italian town looking for love. I really like how the production on the Michael album isn't afraid to use atypical instruments that were new to Jackson's typical sound, as it really broadens the scope of each track from their confined, unfinished demos. And on the topic of instruments, I must say that Australia's own Tommy Emmanuel and his guitar are absolutely sublime. It isn't overpowering or showy. He really understood the assignment and pulls out a great solo and final finger-tapped outro that leaves a special amount of magic and emotion in the track. And finally, I need to compliment Michael's vocals on Much Too Soon. The lyrics have next to no relevance to Jackson's passing, yet through his cutting lead performance, you really feel the solace and can refit the emotions to fit the overall mood of the album. I absolutely love the way Jackson's falsetto leads into the bridge of the song, as well as the way Jackson sings the chorus.
And she answered no to me, but I guess I learned my lesson much too soon.
I'm not crying, you're crying. So yeah, Much Too Soon. Again, it strays away from the original vision of the album, but it's just such a stellar track that you come away from it not really caring. And the fact that something this emotionally powerful was just left on the cutting room floor for Jackson in his lifetime just emphasizes how truly talented Jackson was with songwriting and crafting a story throughout his albums. But I'm so thankful the estate took it out of the vault and made this the album closer. It really leaves the Michael album out on a high note. But before I rank all the songs and do a brief sum up of the project, I wanted to touch on the various music videos and other multimedia projects that were released in conjunction with the album rollout. Because as we know from Jackson's previous albums, the creation of music videos strengthens the identities of each song and are part and parcel with many songs' success.
The mic would just be in right here and that's where he would sing.
And he would also shower in here too?
The first music video we ended up getting was for the album's lead single, Hold My Hand. It was a really good choice leading with this one out of the gate. It's likely the best song on the album and could definitely be made into a music video given the Akon collaboration. And here he is! Yes, the music video for Hold My Hand, directed by Mark Pellington, sees Akon reminiscing on his time with Jackson as we cut to various fan meetups and abstract images of love and connection. These clips are all interspersed with clips of Jackson on tour. And look, I think this is a great interpretation of the song in video form. It wouldn't make sense for this video to just have straight B-roll and Akon performance, as the message of the song spreads out to the community and the human bonds that we all experience. And I think the quick editing cuts along to the beat of the song and the abstract imagery definitely keep interest throughout the video. I particularly like the ending of the video too, where the quick cuts hold on a final out-of-focus shot of a flower being placed on MJ's Hollywood Walk of Fame star, a subtle tribute to the king of pop that shows how the people give back in return for all the happiness Michael gave them throughout the video. Overall, a solid music video that definitely reminds me a lot of the music videos for Man in the Mirror and even bits of They Don't Care About Us with the B-roll footage. I love it. The second music video is One for Hollywood Tonight, directed by Jackson video alumni Wayne Isham. And this one's really interesting as we're actually returning back to the narrative-driven Michael Jackson short film format. Some of MJ's best videos have been narrative focused, like Thriller, Smooth Criminal, and You Rock My World, and they definitely give off a cinematic quality, which is why MJ preferred to call his music videos short films. Hollywood Tonight follows the story of a driven Los Angeles starlet who, spurred on by the prestige and inspiration of Michael Jackson, is able to overcome all odds and escape her laborious job to truly take over Hollywood. But, to be honest, I don't like this music video as much as Hold My Hands. I will say though that Sofia Boutella does a great job in the leading role. It's cool seeing her in a starring role before her big break with the first Kingsman film, and she actually knew Michael while he was still alive, successfully auditioning for the This Is It concerts. Boutella's dance moves are absolutely on point, and I really like how we have an MJ music video with a female protagonist. It's a nice change of pace. However, like the song this video is based on, this isn't the story Jackson wanted to tell with Hollywood Tonight. In the video, Boutella successfully rises up the ranks to escape her jobs at a restaurant and strip club, which by the way is likely one of the most sexually overt things in a Michael Jackson music video since In the Closet. I pray for all the young MJ fans that watch this one with their parents. Jeez. Point is, there is no mention of the dangers of Hollywood and stardom in the video. She simply gets off the bus and makes it. It flies in the face of Jackson's original demo, which again is really unfortunate. Also, what's going on with this weird remix of Hollywood Tonight in the music video? Why does the song have the Billie Jean beat? What is this, Michael Jackson's Halloween? Never again. It just feels off and out of place. Like, wouldn't you want to advertise the single that's on the Michael album and not some weird throwback mix? Ugh. But aside from those issues, I think Hollywood Tonight is fine. It's just not on the level of MJ's other narrative-driven short films. The next music video we got for the Michael album was the Behind the Mask project. This was a really cute idea. The estate decided to accept video submissions from fans singing the song Behind the Mask and collate them into the very first 100% fan-made Michael Jackson music video. There's not much to say about this one. It's so cool seeing the MJ fan community be appreciated in this way, and everyone seems to be having a really great time. I would have joined in on the fun myself, but given I was around 7 or 8 years old at the time and didn't really know what a Michael Jackson was, let alone a Michael album, you know, I'm glad I sat this one out. I'll just leave it to these talented people. I particularly love this moment when all the fans do the same choreographed hand motion. I didn't know so many people are such big fans of the Nick Cage film Face Off. Bit of a niche reference, I fear. Also, look at this king. Plus, this is me talking as like a filmmaker, so disregard everything I say here. But I love all the different camera qualities and setups on display in the video. I think some people actually recorded submissions on 8mm film, which is really neat. And all the camcorders and pixelated webcams really brought me right back to 2011, what a time. So, I think that is all 3 music videos reviewed for the Michael album. I guess we can start the album ranking now. Oh. Turns out there's another music video for Behind the Mask. Let's take a look at this. I almost missed this. When did this come out? 2018? The fuck? So it turns out a new music video for Behind the Mask released onto the Michael Jackson YouTube channel a full 8 years after the Michael album released. I guess before the Behind the Mask project released, there must have been a music video already in production that just didn't see the light of day for some reason. But you know what, I'll say this about the new Behind the Mask music video. This is definitely the most cinematic project we've gotten from the Michael album, with some really excellent cinematic shots and some excellent color grading. This is another performance-style music video situated in a 50 Shades of Grey-esque masked club where a bunch of mask-wearing MJ fans are living it up. This music video is literally Ready Player One MJ edition. We have the Speed Demon Rabbit Head, the MJ robot from Moonwalker, there's the skull from Jackson's Ghost short film. Yeah, I know it's a massive case of the things I know syndrome, but I guess it's a neat homage to Jackson's music video iconography past. Plus, the video does have some cool imagery, with some really neat kaleidoscope effects and cool way of insinuating MJ's presence without MJ actually being in the video. My one critique is that it ends a bit abruptly, cutting out before the song is even finished, thus showing how maybe this video had been on the cutting room floor before being resurrected 8 years later. Still, a nice addition to the Michael music video repertoire, despite being nearly a decade late. On top of these short films, there was also a 25-minute long making-of documentary explaining the behind-the-scenes of the Michael album from the estate's point of view. Honestly, this is a fascinating watch. We get to hear from all the major players about how each song came to be and how they were brought back in to touch up and finish off their respective songs. But the most interesting thing to come out of this documentary is that they actually have interviews with Eddie Cascio, where he discusses recording the Cascio tracks with Michael in 2007. He takes us through his recording studio where he and Jackson allegedly worked on the songs together, and even shows us the bathroom where Jackson would record vocals.
I put a bench right here, and he would actually sit down while he recorded these backgrounds.
It was pretty good studio, you know? You make a studio the best you can make it.
I say it's fascinating because it's just interesting seeing someone so determined in maintaining their lie, in my opinion. To quote Stefan Bukowski from the niche rockstar game L.A. Noire,
"But guys like Bigelow spend so much time convincing themselves that they're not doing anything wrong, that they actually start to believe their own bullshit."
Again, I'm really into the niche references today, it seems. And so overall, can I recommend the Michael album? Given the fact that when it was released and for 12 years after the fact, the estate knowingly sold an album with allegedly fake songs sung by an impersonator and attempted to lie to the general public saying that they were sung by Michael Jackson, even if in 2022, after severe fan backlash and an impending class action lawsuit, the Casio tracks were removed from all streaming service versions of the Michael album. See kids, pays to have physical media, doesn't it? Honestly, I'm really conflicted about recommending this one. I sincerely think that every song Michael actually sung on this album is excellent. And I think nowadays, since the fake songs have been removed, you could safely listen to and enjoy this album. But that recommendation comes with the biggest fucking asterisk of all time, that the estate and Sony Music should not be commended for this album, as the trickle-down effect from them releasing fake songs on an official Michael Jackson album has resulted in several outcomes that at best have resulted in a divided fan base, and at worst seen Michael Jackson fans serving real prison sentences in pursuit of the truth behind the Casio tracks. That is crazy. Once again, I highly recommend you listen to the Faking Michael podcast, as well as Hannah Savage's amazing video on the creation of the Michael album and the Casio track controversy, so you yourself can make your own educated opinion as to the quality of this album. But for me, as the first posthumous Michael Jackson album, I think we should rank all of the songs on this release to see how they stack up against each other. And just remember, by the way, this list is my personal opinion. Please do not get butthurt. Thank you, let's get into it. In last place we see I Like the Way You Love Me. Definitely not a bad song by any means, but it feels pretty one note with some disorienting production and a cloudy vocal mix. Plus those 5 key changes, it's a little bit insane. Next. In 6th place, we have I Can't Make It Another Day. These parenthesized titles, man. A really excellent track with a great guitar solo and vocals. I've just put it lower on the list as not only does the audio sound more compressed in comparison to the other tracks, but the fact that it is an invincible holdover does reduce its allure and interest for me. In 5th place, we have Behind the Mask. Definitely a vast improvement over the Thriller 40 demo, but this demo is less relevant than Another Day. That being said, I think McLean's production elements bring this song up above Another Day, thus reinforcing the ethos of the album retroactively. Plus, absolutely great saxophone solo. Next up we have Much Too Soon, a really great closer to the album that honestly I wasn't expecting to hit me as much as it did. I really appreciated the raw naturality of this song, and of course I'm a sucker for Australia's own Tommy Emmanuel's acoustic guitar playing.
It's a running gag.
The reason it isn't higher on the list though is because it is from the History era, so again not super relevant to the original goal of Michael. Taking the bronze medal for the Michael album is Hollywood Tonight. This honestly would have been the best song on the album if they had just kept Michael's original lyrics sacred. Hashtag release the 15 edit. As weird as it sounds. Either way, great production on the part of Teddy Riley, and a great spoken word bridge by Tyrell Jackson to complete this song. Of course, my second favourite track on the Michael album is Best of Joy. A beautifully arranged reworking of a Thriller era demo that was made 1,000,000% better by Jackson later in his life. Definitely essential listening for MJ fans that you'll probably hear me listening to as I frolic through a field or something. And finally, you all knew this was coming. Hold My Hand is my favourite song on the Michael album. MJ and Akon have the perfect collaboration of voices, and it acts as the perfect MJ send-off song that this album definitely needed. And with that, that's the Michael album. What a whirlwind of a first project, man. Some great tracks and a massive controversy that has clouded the album in skepticism since its release. Also, this is the most nitpicky of opinions, but I don't like the name of the album. Just calling it Michael is so unbelievably cliche and doesn't follow the naming conventions of Jackson's other albums with more edgy or radical sounding titles. Plus, it's really weird that the estate would include allegedly fake songs when there's a wide breadth of a late 2000s Michael Jackson demos available to them. Where are the Brad Buxer songs like The Loser and Days in Gloucestershire? Get some of those Bahrain tracks in here. What about remastering tracks like We've Had Enough, or even just re-releasing the This Is It song as a track on the album? Yeah, it would have been totally boring, but at least we know MJ sung on that song. And you know what would have been an amazing idea? Taking MJ's original demo for People of the World, keeping MJ in the chorus and ad-libs, and amalgamating all the different vocal collaborators MJ worked with in his time to create one last MJ Peace album. That would have been so perfect, and a perfect encapsulation of MJ's ethos, typical of a posthumous project. I guess there's still time, estate. It'll be better than Keep Your Head Up, that's for sure. Anyway, let's move on from the Michael album, as we still have a whole other posthumous MJ release to get to. And so far, we're already an hour in. God damn, I'm gonna hate editing this one.
Some of the fans have those same fears, and they wonder if we should be doing this, but you know what? The answer is no.
Alright, new album, new recording day, let's get into it. So, the Michael album comes out, and it's immediately shrouded in a heap of controversy. Not only were the Casio tracks a big source of contention in the MJ fan community, but the general public and various mainstream media outlets questioned the ethics of releasing music that Michael himself didn't finish and didn't approve of releasing. Nonetheless, the Michael Jackson estate really felt the need to right the wrongs of the previous album, and in 2012 the estate would release the fabulous and critically successful Bad 25, to test the waters to see whether more posthumous MJ music could be released into the public. And sure enough, the effectiveness of Bad 25 allowed the estate to greenlight the next collection of posthumous Michael Jackson music, to be released in 2014. So let's jump ahead to that year. You've just been to the movie theatre to watch Guardians of the Galaxy, you're just about to go to your mate's house to perform the Ice Bucket Challenge, and just as you're watching Vine videos on your iPhone 6, you see a whole new Michael Jackson album advertised as Xscape. Or Xscape. I'm just going to call it Xscape for this video. But for this album, we have two key individuals spearheading the project. Enter L.A. Reid, an American record executive that saw the potential in the lead singles on the Michael album and proposed a new release to the estate of unreleased material from across Michael's catalogue this time, not just the later era demos from his life. With the backing of the estate, L.A. Reid, as well as lead producer on the album, Timbaland, began scouring the vault for fully finished Michael Jackson tracks that could not only be released in their original forms, but also remixed with a new 2014 sound. Like the Michael album, Reid and Timbaland brought back key personnel to work on the tracks that they had worked on with Jackson in the past. In particular, Rodney Jerkins was brought in to remix the title track that he and Jackson both worked on during the Invincible sessions. So yeah, the Xscape album certainly has a lot of promise, and going by the general consensus in the MJ fan community, people really seem to like this one. And on a personal note, this is the first Michael Jackson album I actually remember experiencing the album rollout of. I'd recently just gotten into MJ and was beginning to delve into his back catalogue, so it was really cool looking online and seeing a new released Michael Jackson album hit store shelves. I remember seeing the promo for the lead singles, and more strongly, I remember going to my local library and borrowing the CD and listening to it in the car for about 2 weeks straight. But you know what? That was 10 years ago. Let's take a look at Xscape today to see whether the unreleased material on this album is just as good as the Michael album, or even as good as Michael Jackson's released discography. There were actually two different versions of the Xscape album released. There was the standard edition, which just included the 2014 remixes of each song, and the deluxe edition, which contained both the remixed versions and the original versions of the unreleased demos. This is a really great quality of life edition for the estate, and definitely an improvement over the Michael album. And between the standard edition and deluxe, I really like the cover art for this album. The image of MJ, taken from his photo shoots for Blood on the Dance Floor, looks really sweet and definitely in line with what an MJ cover should look like. Plus, you know, if you take a look at what the album cover could have looked like, yeah, I think we got the better end of the stick here. Although that being said, I do kind of dig this early album art. I need that as a mural or something. Can someone hook me up? Anyway, let's move past the album art debacle and get into one of the most important questions surrounding this project. What are the songs on the Xscape album? Well, this project collates 8 unreleased Michael Jackson songs spanning from the Thriller era all the way to Invincible. And lucky me, the grand majority of these demos are from the Invincible sessions, which honestly just shows the sheer amount of creative brilliance that came out of that project. Justice for Invincible, I suppose. I'm primarily going to be talking about the remixes on this album, as they were prioritized over the original versions in the marketing for Xscape. And like last time, I'll also rank the songs from worst to best, and also discuss the music videos and multimedia rollout for the Xscape album. Sound good? Okay, then let's get into the first track off of Xscape, the wonderful Love Never Felt So Good. Recorded during the early Thriller era, this song was originally conceived from the 1980 Paul Anka sessions that gave us This Is It and MJ's vocals on the Drake song Don't Matter To Me. Jesus, the Paul Anka sessions must have been some of the most productive recording sessions for producing successful posthumous music. In a similar vein to those songs, Love Never Felt So Good is a bright, poppy love anthem where Jackson sings about the elation of a newfound love. And for this song, the original demo of Jackson singing, some finger snaps, and a grand piano is really nice and loungy. I can just hear it playing in the evening of a swanky hotel or something. I like it. And on that, the 2014 remix is a pretty perfect evolution of the original demo. The song is sped up a little bit and some orchestration is used that really beefs up the track and gives it a more poppy quality. It's really nice and a great start to the Xscape album. Continuing my picks for my top 3 moments of each track, the first thing I wanted to mention is that groovy ass electric guitar solo in the chorus. You can just tell that guitarists Elliot Ives and Mike Scott were just having a ball recording this one. The second thing I absolutely love about this song are Michael's ad-libs. It's great that both the original demo and the 2014 remix end with some ambient studio chatter from Jackson,
So good. Alright, that's fine. That's it.
giving the listener a little peek behind the curtain. It's a really great way of having a bit of creative fun with the song, while at the same time admitting that the song did go unfinished during the Paul Anka sessions. The final thing I wanted to shout out about Love Never Felt So Good is the orchestration used on the remix. The inclusion of those swelling strings really gives this song such a cinematic, elating quality. Some real Shrek dance montage shit right here. I'm serious, when the score breaks away for a little orchestral aside, that sounds straight out of an Alan Silvestri score. It's amazing. And the final home run this orchestra scores is the trickle down in the final moments of the song, ending with a twinkle sound effect. Yeah, it's super cheesy, but it's so Michael Jackson. It gives off Moonwalker vibes now that I think about it. Funnily enough, I love Love Never Felt So Good. Given the controversy that surrounded the legitimacy of the previous album, I'm sure the estate wanted to fire out of the gate with a song that was quintessentially, unmistakably Michael Jackson. And Love Never Felt So Good delivers. I just wish MJ had someone to sing it with, you know, but we'll get into that later. The next track off the ranks is Chicago.
Met her on the way to Chicago.
An outtake from the Invincible album that was originally recorded under the title of She Was Loving Me. Why the estate decided to change the original title of the track on both the remix version and the original version, I'll never know, but anyway, a lot of people really seem to enjoy this song. Partially because it sort of became a viral hit on TikTok, with people digging the 2014 remix's hard and gruff production. But what do I think? Well, yeah, I think it's pretty good. Maybe not the best song on Xscape, but still a nice track. Jackson's vocals are top-notch, belting out laments about being swindled by the love of an already taken partner. On a separate note, how funny is it transitioning from the optimistic brightness of Love Never Felt So Good to... I really like the original Invincible demo as well. It makes you feel like you're walking down an empty street alone at night, with a foreboding ominousness. But in my opinion, I personally think the original Invincible demo is better than the 2014 remix in this case. I don't know, the 2014 version of Chicago is just caked in modern dubstep production that I think overpowers Jackson's original vocals, especially by the end of the song. That being said, there are still things about the 2014 remix that I'd like to mention here. First, I think that sub-bass sound at the start of the 2014 remix is so fucking clean. Literally, as soon as I hear it, I'm just all like, "Oh, hello, you naughty little fuck!" No other notes, I just think the synth on this remix fits the song perfectly. The second thing to shout out is the fact they kept all the original vocals from the Invincible demo in the 2014 remix. So when the hilariously dated lyrics of play out, while it does take you out of the song a little bit, it's just pretty cute, and the bite of Michael's vocals on the line really sells it regardless. I can just see MJ living out his 2014 lifestyle with a Motorola beeper in his daily essentials bag. It's amazing. The final thing I really like about both versions of Chicago is the bridge of the song. In both versions, MJ's amazing falsetto vocals ring out and really emphasises the desolation and torment MJ finds himself in this situation. I also really like how in the 2014 remix, a layered vocal effect is used on the second part of the bridge that sounds really modern and fresh. It's a really good evolution. Honestly, I don't hate Chicago. I think it's pretty great. But is it the best track off of Xscape in its original form or its new remix? I don't think so. Neither version really escalates in energy throughout the song, and from my own personal preference, some of the dubstep elements of the remix, like the overpowering hi-hat drums and weird synth inflections, are just a bit much for me. So yeah, definitely not bad at all. I would even say that this track is better than some of the lesser tracks on the Michael album, so that's gotta stand for something. I'm just afraid that Chicago stands are gonna come after me. Let's move on to track 3 before I need to start changing my address. The third track we are treated to is Loving You. And unfortunately for me, this is one of the lesser remixes on this album. Originally recorded during the Bad sessions, you can tell listening to the original demo of the song that the tape has been really worn out, with some pretty intense distortion warping on the opening of the track.
Hear the warp from the tape? You hear that? That's a dope sound though. I like that.
But as a song, I think Loving You is nice. Similar to the Bad 25 demo, I'm So Blue, this song emanates a warm and cozy feeling. The synth on the original demo is just so 80s, and I can honestly see this song being used to advertise like a ski lodge or something like that. I don't know, man, it turns out that I have a very visual imagination when refitting the purposes of MJ music to real life scenarios. So we've heard the original demo, all warm and fuzzy like. Let's move on to the 2014 remix to see if it captures the same vibe.
August mood, where are the stars of the night?
Well, that's certainly different. Oh my god, what have they done to this song? Yes, there are still some hints of the frosty vibes of the original, it's just they've turned the production up to 11, eliminating all of the subtlety of the original demo. Why does every single beat have to end with an emphasized bass boom that, if I'm being perfectly frank, sounds exactly like a Vine boom sound effect?
All night, and the weather missing. If you're not well, stay in bed.
It's just a bit too much. I think this grandiose production doesn't match Jackson's quieter performance, or the lyrics of the song about Jackson preferring to enjoy the company of his partner from the inner confines rather than the outside world. However, it's not like the song's contents itself is bad, and I can definitely find the positives of Loving You. The one thing that really hooked me in the 2014 remix of the song was that piano riff. It has such a mysterious quality to it, and while it doesn't fully pay off or continue much throughout the song, it definitely acts as a pretty good hook at the start. Another thing I really like about Loving You is that bass synth. Throughout the entire track, and especially in the second chorus, the bass line is just so funky and smooth. It really makes you want to bob your head to the beat, even if it is being a bit overshadowed by the song's hi-hats and harmonies. And oh my lord, I need to stress how excellent Jackson's vocals are in the bridge of this song. it never fails to amaze me that this man was able to effortlessly use his full vocal range, absolutely body a bridge on the song, and then just trash the song to work on something else. Like anyone else would release this song or come to it later, but not MJ. These are his table scraps. Look, perhaps I'm being a bit too harsh on Loving You. The original demo is really sweet despite the obvious audible damage the tape has incurred, but while I do like the individual production elements of the remix, it all feels a bit extra when it's all brought together. It definitely gives off I Like the Way You Love Me vibes in that respect. Track 4 on Xscape is A Place With No Name. What is this, an America cover? Oh, it actually is. Oh, there you go. This song is again another demo from the Invincible album that saw MJ interpolating the classic America song of the same name, giving it a special MJ twist. And before we go any further, I just want to stress something really important quickly. Oh my god, the original demo of this song is literally the best song on the album. Yes, better than all the remixes, better than Love Never Felt So Good. I absolutely love the original demo for A Place With No Name. The desolate acoustic guitar really sets the tone, and Jackson's effortless singing matches it so perfectly. It's like MJ stumbled right into a Sergio Leone film, it's that engaging. Plus, I really love the backing vocals in the chorus, and you can tell MJ is just vibing out to the song with those ad-libs. Some may say the original demo of A Place With No Name is too simplistic, but man, it's just so unique and different from everything else in MJ's catalogue, and everything else on this album for that matter. And it stands on its own as my personal favourite track off of Xscape. Spoilers for the ranking, I guess, I don't know. So, I've certainly set a high bar for A Place With No Name, but given how minimalist and slick the original demo was, I'm sure the 2014 remix will be just as good. On the highway. I would like to publicly apologise for dogging on the production elements of Chicago and Loving You. What the hell have they done to A Place With No Name? I have so many questions, mainly, why did you interpolate the melody of The Way You Make Me Feel for a posthumous Michael Jackson song? I really don't like this production decision. Like, The Way You Make Me Feel is a really great song and all, but don't take a previously existing MJ melody and just Control-C, Control-V that shit into a new song. This is on a similar level to putting the Billie Jean backing on Hollywood Tonight, except that was a throwaway throwback mix of the song. This is the official remixed version that was actually released as a single. Furthermore, the rest of the production on the remix is just so bland, man. It just does away with the stylistic high-concept acoustic qualities of the original demo to create a bland, synth-heavy pop tune. And unfortunately, while I adore the original version of A Place With No Name, this is the worst 2014 remix we've heard so far. It just strays too far from Michael's original vision, and while there are things I do like about this remix, I particularly like the bridge and how a lot of synth production is stripped away. Like Loving You, it's all a bit too much, isn't it? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop ranting about that remix now, and I'm going to list 3 great things I like about the original demo. Why? Well, it's much nicer to gush over the things that we love, rather than the remixes that we hate. The first thing I love about A Place With No Name is how it starts. The acoustic guitar sample and oscillating wind noises in the background set the scene perfectly of barren desert wastelands, which is complemented by Jackson's opening line. It's a perfect tone setter for the song. Secondly, the way Michael sings those are just so passionate and soulful. I wish MJ had done more acoustic versions for his other songs, as his vocals guiding the track really elevate the material. Like, imagine a Stranger in Moscow acoustic version, or Lady in My Life, so much potential, man. Estate, get on that. And you know what, the final thing I wanted to compliment is super minor and really granular, but I love how the track fades at the end. Jesus, this is the most insignificant compliment a song has ever gotten. Can you tell me why you gave this album a 10 out of 10? It ended gradually. Like Dust in the Wind, the fade really works here. It's like sand slipping away, like MJ is closing the book on this wild tale. How crazy is it that the same song can be both my least favourite and most favourite song on the Xscape album? It's just super weird that L.A. Reid, Timbaland and the wealth of other producers brought onto these songs thought they had permission to deviate so heavily from Jackson's vision for some of these songs. A cozy winter comfort jam? Let's throw it all away and make a booming trap track. What about an excellent simplistic acoustic song that is wholly unique in MJ's catalogue? It just really bugs me that the original demos for these songs had so much potential and promise that was thrown away with the remix and, in my opinion, neutered. You didn't do that with Love Never Felt So Good, so why do it here? Anyway, give the original version of A Place With No Name a listen, and if you want to listen to A Place With No Name in a remixed form, you might as well listen to The Way You Make Me Feel. It's basically the same song. Up next we have Slave to the Rhythm, and I'm happy to say order has been restored. Both the original demo and 2014 remix are wonderful in my opinion. This demo, originally taken from the Dangerous era, is a foreboding tale about domesticity and subjugation, a story Jackson recounts allegorizing her struggle as a slave to the rhythm. I absolutely love this track. The hard-hitting beat of the original demo is such a toe tapper, and MJ's vocal performance is great as well.
She dances into she said like she dances to his needs.
I'm amazed this song was left on the cutting room floor for Dangerous, as it definitely fits in with the other narrative-based songs like Who Is It on that album. The first and most fabulous thing about this track is that the 2014 remix, I think, is another perfect evolution of the original demo. We begin the song with a beefed up version of a Danny Elfman-esque orchestral stinger that really sets the tone for the rest of the song. And while we don't have a booming hip-hop beat this time around, we instead have an equally foreboding dubstep lead. And look, while swapping out a more linear pop sound with a dubstep lead may not be to everyone's liking, this remix is miles better than the previous ones, as it still sticks really closely to the demo's core elements. And honestly, that's just nice to see for such an awesome concept. The second great thing about this track's remix is that sick electronic 808 bass line that plays. It just adds such a danceable quality to this song, and like the synth in Hold My Hand is just so 2010s trap. And finally, I need to reiterate how excellent MJ is on this song. The man was literally yelling out that final verse in the booth. It really grips you to the story of the song. The lyrics work really well as well, with MJ's third-person narrative really painting a picture of repetition and eventual liberation as the fictional slave to the rhythm breaks free from her chains. I'm sure this would have been Henrik Ibsen's favourite MJ song. Shout out my literary nerds out there, you know what I'm talking about. So, we're more than halfway through the Xscape album, and save for 2 of the new remixes, I'm really impressed with the new material on this album. There are no overt lyrical senses like the Michael album, and it's great that we get both versions of each song, so even if the new production elements aren't to your liking, you still have MJ's original vision to fall back on. So, riding this high, let's get into track 7 on this project. Do you know where your children are? Well, no, because I haven't had them yet. Don't rush me, Michael. Throughout the 1980s, there had been a rising public awareness regarding child safety, with the popular slogan appearing in print and television advertisements, encouraging parents to closely monitor their children's whereabouts.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
This was a really big issue at the time, and tied with the war on drugs movement signalled a more intense crackdown on the influence of child safety. There were plenty of trickle-down effects from the Do You Know Where Your Children Are movement, like the creation of the PG-13 rating system and ESRB, multiple enforced curfews around the US for minors, and apparently an unreleased Michael Jackson song. And I gotta say, MJ really didn't sugarcoat the lyrics on this track. Do You Know Where Your Children Are is a gruff, scared straight style PSA disguised as a pop song. Jackson again recounts the story of a young girl who this time escapes home and finds herself having to fend for herself to survive on the streets. Remember how this album started? Love never felt so good. Okay. I do think lyrically, this song is some of the best material on the album, where it doesn't feel like MJ is lecturing the listener, but is instead painting a narrative picture. Framing his ethos through a cautionary fable in a more subtle fashion that inadvertently is more effective in conveying a message. Plus, you know, the production of the original demo sets the scene pretty well. I love what I think is an electric organ playing in the background, creating eerie soundscapes throughout the song, and the drum loop has such a strong kick to it that together creates a lovely gruff tone. Like Chicago, it really makes you feel like you're walking down a desolate, lonely street, not knowing who or what is in the shadows. Okay, let's listen to how the 2014 remix carries on these feelings of unease and ominous subtlety. Let's go. You know, I really don't like being negative. I want to say, here and now, I have loved all of the original versions of these songs on the Xscape album. And a bunch of the remixes, as we found, are pretty great too. But what the fuck happened here? Where is the musical subtlety? Why are there these extra emphasis boosts that sound like I've won the lottery or something? And for the love of God, who thought this annoying, droning, incessant synthesizer lead was a good idea to use as the main element of the song? This remix is the worst on the Xscape album, I'm afraid. It just takes away everything that made the original demo so alluring, and instead turns what could have been a great cautionary MJ song like Slave to the Rhythm into a bastardization of its original form. I don't even know if I can find 3 things I even like about this remix. I genuinely just don't like it, and I've never liked it ever since my first listen 10 years ago. Just listen to this solo section. Can you honestly listen to this and say it's pleasant to listen to?
Shut up! Shut up!
If you can, I wish I had your musical taste in eardrums because I must be missing something here. Look, at the very least, I'm glad Sony Music and the estate didn't pull another Hollywood Tonight and shamelessly censor the lyrics for being a bit too raw, which does show improvement from project to project. But yeah, the remix of Do You Know Where Your Children Are is the lowest point we're gonna hit on the Xscape album. Very disappointing. Lucky, however, that I don't have to stay angry for very long, because the next track on our list, and the second last track overall, is Blue Gangster. And with this track, we're heading into good song territory again. I absolutely love this song, and it's definitely up there as one of my favourite demos on the album, as well as most likely my favourite remix. Another Invincible era demo, Jackson framed this song as a pseudo-sequel to Smooth Criminal, using bombastic brass instruments and some amazing harmonies to create a stylish, full-sounding track. What you gonna do? You make a friend of mine. The Blue Gangster. There's also a theatrical quality to Blue Gangster, like the rising harmonies in the choruses ooze West Side Story, and the sliding trombones at the end of the track are so typical of 1940s film noir scores. And I'm so happy to report that the 2014 remix of this song is just as good, if not better. We have an even more full orchestra for this version, starting off the song really forebodingly. This version of the song sounds almost Bondian. I'm half expecting Daniel Craig to come out and look conflicted at something. Number one of my favourite parts of the song is that in contrast to the previous remix, this one begins really subdued, with Jackson's vocals leading the song through the verse, with the grandiose production slowly building alongside the intensity of Jackson's vocals. Listen to this moment here.
Look what you done to me, baby. I can no longer smile, baby.
Doesn't that just sound so cinematic? You know MJ would have loved this rendition as it doesn't fire out of the gate, but builds and builds, letting the moment sizzle.
No, we're not misunderstanding. We're sizzling. But he's sizzling.
Sizzling.
Okay.
And of course, the second thing I love about the Blue Gangster remix is that bass drop in the chorus. Here, the orchestral production meets a modern-day trap sound with pounding snares and an infectious 808 bass underlying to make the perfect crescendo of old and new styles. This is what a modern-day MJ song should sound like. Some may say that, like Chicago and Do You Know Where Your Children Are, it's a little bit too much, but for me, all production elements are filled with so much energy and work so well together that I can't help but bob my head. Plus, that high energy is only really exploited in the choruses of the song. As in the verses, Jackson's vocals return back to the forefront, something that one of the earlier remixes could take a note from. The final thing I really need to shout out again is that godly, genre-perfect, bombastic trumpet outro that bookends the song. It's just so on brand for the rest of the track, and a carryover from the original demo, keeping true to Michael's vision. If I had one note on the remix, I would have loved if they had brought even more ad-libs from the original demo into this new mix. But at the same time, I understand why they wanted to keep it minimal, as it would have likely clouded the track, and honestly, I love that ruminating effect that is used in the bridge and final moments of the song. Blue Gangster is an absolutely excellent song. I understand why it was kept off of Invincible. The original demo doesn't fit the upbeat R&B vibes of that album, but I'm so happy that it ended up here. And this may be a controversial opinion, but I think this is a better song than Chicago. I love both original versions of the song, but to me, Blue Gangster not only has a more calculated, stylistic remix, but it also has a confidence and sly swagger to it that isn't felt in Chicago. And look at that, now TikTok hates me. But you know what? We're up to the final song off of the Xscape project. So what better way to wrap up the album than by discussing the song the album is named after? Xscape. So, another unused demo from Invincible gives us honestly another pretty great track, and a fitting closer for the album. The original demo for this song, as well as a few others from Xscape, had actually been leaked years prior to the album's release, so this technically isn't unheard, but for many, this was their first experience with the song, including my own. The original demo has a really excellent cinematic quality, and tells a story not only through the use of music and lyrics, but also dialogue asides throughout the song that really paint a picture of a prison break heist film.
Open up 6. He's gone!
Where's Steve McQueen when you need him? The remix on this one is also really great, and sticks quite close to the original demo. Are you noticing a trend here regarding which remixes I like and which I don't? What makes it better is that they brought back in the original producer of the Xscape demo, Rodney Darkchild Jerkins, who also worked with Jackson on a number of Invincible's biggest hits. In this case, getting the relevant personnel worked quite well, as Jerkins faithfully updates the song here. Unfortunately, the dialogue asides and other cinematic moments didn't make the cut for this new remix in favour of a more straight-laced pop song, but I still think the remix is great and certainly better than... Is that song just going to be a punching bag for the rest of the video? Because I'm okay with that. The first moment I wanted to shout out from this track appears in the original demo. We've gotten past the bridge and we hear MJ escaping his followers on a motorcycle. Don't ask. The energy of the track increases as an emphasis riser ruminates in the background and various diegetic elements crescendo, which is then paid off with this excellent moment. Okay, that is fucking awesome. And the ringing out of a helicopter in the background elevating us to the next stage of the chase. How come all the Invincible songs couldn't have been this cinematic? But I tell you what, the amazing production inclusions aren't exclusive to the original version, as in the remix. We have this absolutely fabulous inclusion of a big, bombastic brass backing that honestly kind of brings the house down. I feel like I'm watching a marching band or something. This is great stuff. And the trumpets come back in during the final moments. This remix has me going like this. But you know what? The final thing I absolutely love about Xscape is what it represents, both as an individual song and as the bookend for this second posthumous Michael Jackson album. This song really does feel like MJ's handwritten fuck you to all of the press hounds and media outlets that ceaselessly obsessed over him for decades, critiquing everything about the man and printing dozens of defamatory, fantastical tabloids with no concern for legitimate fact. Here, MJ is voicing his frustration and drive to just be free of it all. I even read the lyrics in the second verse as him talking about his previous relationships, yet another story the news hounds couldn't help but aggrandize and dissect. And honestly, I'm really happy that a song like Xscape could be on a posthumous Michael Jackson project. Even though the man had made songs concerning the rumours spread about him in the past, this song feels directly targeted at the ones causing it all. And the fact that the song acts as a spearhead for a full album of unreleased material with a harder edge than that on the Michael album really epitomises how much dissatisfaction he felt for key areas of social life. Xscape is a great, hard-hitting track that is a fabulous closer to this album. Okay, so that was Xscape, and honestly, I kind of feel like it's...
Dance.
Oh yeah, right, I completely forgot that the final bonus track off of the deluxe edition of this album was a remix of the song Love Never Felt So Good, this time in duet with Justin Timberlake. Let's give it a look. Turns out there's a third version of Love Never Felt So Good that was released in collaboration between Jackson and Justin Timberlake. Now, these two had worked together in the past, performing on stage together in 2001 when Timberlake was part of NSYNC. Plus, this was in that 2014 period where Timberlake was having a bit of a career revival with his hit, Can't Stop the Feeling. So it makes sense that the estate would want to drum up some press by having the man sing on one of the more poppy songs from this album. And yeah, I think this duet is pretty great, to be honest. It has a more stripped down mix in comparison to the album version of the song, but the energy is still really great, and honestly, it probably is the best version of Love Never Felt So Good in my opinion. Timberlake's vocals are just as poppy and energetic as Jackson's, and I really like this little breakdown bit that feels exactly like the types of dance breaks Jackson would include in his live shows. The collab definitely brought eyes to the project as one of the highest streaming songs on the album, and as a song, it's a neat bonus for people that actually bought the deluxe edition. So, this video has gone on a lot longer than I expected, but we're not done yet because we've still got to talk about the music videos from the Xscape album, and in this case there is a lot to discuss.
What you saw at the billboard was Super Michael.
The first videos we ended up getting were two videos for Love Never Felt So Good. Whew, the Love Never Felt So Good multimedia extravaganza continues on, it seems. The first video was released to promote the duet with Justin Timberlake, and this is actually a really great music video. It has a similar energy to Hold My Hand in that it focuses on a group of different MJ fans of all different cultural backgrounds coming together to celebrate the music and dance moves of Michael Jackson. Oh, and Justin Timberlake is here too, it seems, performing the song alongside archival footage of MJ's classic music videos. I really love the sense of community this music video emanates. Everyone is really digging the song, and it's cool that Timberlake actually joined the group for a dance party at the end. Oh, and they actually recreated sets and locations from previous music videos for the cast to dance around in. We have recreations of the Bad subway station, Thriller Theatre, and Beat It Pool Hall that act as great homages as to why these posthumous projects exist, to celebrate MJ's legacy. This is an awesome music video. And hey, if you aren't too keen on the backup dancers or Timberlake kind of taking the spotlight from MJ in a few places, the estate also released a second music video for Love Never Felt So Good that takes out the Timberlake footage and instead includes a bunch more B-roll of MJ's short films. This version of the video isn't as strong in my opinion, but it's great that we have the option of both. We also got a pretty cool collaboration between two different MJ estate projects with the release of the Blue Gangster music video. This was a smaller scale release that saw the cast of the Cirque du Soleil show Michael Jackson Immortal choreograph a dance routine to the original version of Blue Gangster. It's pretty neat that the estate would choose to make a music video of the original version of this song as opposed to the 2014 remix, and this video is pretty neat as well. Even though you can tell this is a smaller scale project with more limited set design and colour grading that is a little too muddy for my tastes. I really love the choreography throughout the video, and some of the sweeping cinematography shots are pretty great too. I absolutely love this moment where the male and female dancers effectively do a dance-off. The framing and energy of it just matches the smooth atmosphere of the original song. I love it. Okay, some really good music videos off of the Xscape album. Let's see what they release next. Oh, okay, a music video for Slave to the Rhythm. That should be good. Okay, it's a live performance from the 2014 Billboard Music Awards? What? How did they do that? I'm intrigued now.
She dances in the sheets at night. She dances to his needs.
What the fuck is that? Okay, so around the time of the Xscape album's release, it was rumoured that there was going to be a promotional collaboration between the Jackson Estate and the 2014 Billboard Awards celebrating MJ and his music. And while fans thought all we were going to get was a simple dance routine in tribute to MJ, what we ended up getting was a Michael Jackson hologram with technology taken right out of the Michael Jackson 1 live show, dancing to the 2014 remix of Slave to the Rhythm. We see Jackson in hologram form dancing around an ornamentally designed stage with fire blasting around him and several backup dancers in both real and hologram form, matching the man in a choreographed dance routine. And see, I'm very mixed on this performance. From a technological standpoint, this is pretty impressive. The fact they were able to craft a full MJ performance basically from the ground up that has all of his classic moves is sort of a nice tribute. But at the same time, I just think the technology wasn't there yet with regards to the facial capture. Unfortunately, there's a hint of uncanny valley at some points where it doesn't really look like MJ. This was around the time period when several Hollywood movies began including CG versions of old and deceased actors into their plot lines, as well as a few other examples of this technology being used for musical artists, so it makes sense that the Jackson Estate would want to test the waters to see if a similar sentiment was feasible for live music, but it just doesn't work for me. It's a bit of an ethical problem for me when you wholly construct an artificial version of a real living person to perform a remix of an unreleased song that he had absolutely no say in releasing posthumously, with the express purpose of selling more copies of a posthumous musical album. It's just a little bit offensive to me personally. I'm fine with them releasing unreleased music, but I think crafting artificial live performances around that unreleased music is going a step too far. Remember that this was a living, breathing man we're talking about here. And here they are, parading him on stage and catering to the lowest common denominator, just checking off the boxes of what the general public would expect to see from an MJ live performance. Like, we've got to have him shifting across the stage, we've got to have him standing on his toes, we need to make him moonwalk, even though he only does that in Billie Jean, but we need to make him moonwalk. Yeah, I'm not really sure about this 2014 Billboard performance, but if I had to say one positive thing about it, at least the Jackson Estate was willing to try and experiment with new technology to make a product that few artists had actually done before. That side of it really harkens back to MJ's own technological innovations, and the technology has now gone on to be used for various artists, from Hatsune Miku to the ABBA Voyage live show. And at least the crowd seems to be enjoying the performance. My eyes always shift to this lady just having the time of her life. I guess it all just comes down to your own personal ethics on this matter, but at least they didn't craft an artificial MJ for the last music video on our list, the music video for A Place With No Name. So, the final music here is for the 2014 remix of the song, which, as we already know, I'm not the biggest fan of. But I will say that for a posthumous music video, A Place With No Name is pretty solid. We follow two wanderers, played by Alvesta Martin and Danielle Akoff, as they roam around a barren desert and beach as we intercut to B-roll of Michael from the In the Closet music video. I think the aesthetic for this music video is really cool, with a grainy shot-on-film look that seamlessly blends the different types of footage. And while it does look like a commercial for a makeup brand in some places and has some really odd Jeep product placement, some of the video effects are really neat, and it's cool seeing some rare footage of Michael from the In the Closet music video sessions, including some full colour footage of him presumably scouting for locations. This is a great example of how to do a posthumous Michael Jackson music video, blending a modern day narrative with footage of Jackson that we've never seen before. And despite my problems with the remix, I'm glad the music video for A Place With No Name ends the Xscape music video series out on a high note. And with that,
okay, I'm just gonna stop right here. I'm midway through editing this video now, and I actually realized that I'm not done talking about the Xscape music videos. We actually have 2 more small things that we need to bring up. So another multimedia thing that I forgot to mention is that the cast of Michael Jackson Immortal, now rebranded to Michael Jackson 1, did another choreographed dance video, this time to a place with no name. There's not much to say about this one. It's pretty similar to the Blue Gangster music video, but it does have better color grading, and it does have some great choreography, albeit with slightly amateur looking production value. So that's a thing that's there. And another thing that I completely forgot to mention when I was actually recording this video is the actual Xscape documentary that they released alongside deluxe versions of the album. Like the Michael documentary, this documentary is pretty effective in giving you like a basic rundown of each track off the album and how they came to be, as well as how all the different producers, Timbaland, L.A. Reid, came together to do the remixes. My only real gripes with this documentary are that firstly, it's for some reason graded in black and white, which I mean, just like, why? I mean, this isn't Lahane. But also, I don't really love the whole round table aesthetic. It just seems very sort of pretentious and like, yes, we're the Knights of the Michael Jackson round table. Like, no you're not. 2 of you knew him in his lifetime. But you know, it's fine. This documentary is totally fine. It's better than the Michael documentary because at least no one is like outright lying about how they produced the tracks in this one. So yeah, back to the video. I'm happy to say that despite the odd poor remix or dodgy music video, Xscape is a really great album. There are missteps, don't get it twisted, but it is clear that the Jackson estate did listen to previous criticisms of the Michael album, attempting to achieve a better end product. But is it better than the Michael album as a whole? Well, we'll answer that question soon enough, but first we've got to rank all of the 2014 remixes on the Xscape album from worst to best. And just to reiterate, this ranking pertains strictly to the 2014 remixes, not the original versions. In last place, unfortunately, we have Do You Know Where Your Children Are, a fabulous song in concept with great lyrics and vocals by MJ that was cut down by some obnoxious modern production decisions that overpower what could have been an effective and informative pop track. Next up off the ranks is Loving You. I don't know about this one, man. I think the overall production of the song is just a little bit too much. All those different instruments cloud what should be a cozy little indoor jam. It's not as bad as the previous choice, but compared to some of the other songs in this album, it's just not at that same level. Just after that, at the 6th place spot, comes A Place With No Name, the remix, not the original. This one is such a shame as I absolutely adore the original version of this song, but I can't get over the design decision to interpolate an already existing MJ melody on a posthumous MJ track. That is completely separate to it context-wise, like what? Plus for me, the production itself is also a little bit too much and gets quite busy. If you can't tell, I prefer the more subtle approach to the original demo a lot more. My number 5 pick for the Xscape album is the title track itself. It's a really nice song with some really cool production, and getting Rodney Jerkins back in to finish the track was a really nice touch. I just wish they added back those cinematic elements and dialogue pieces from the original version into this remix. But hey, I can't argue with that trumpet riff. The next cap off the ranks at number 4 goes to Slave to the Rhythm. Ethically dubious music video aside, this track is really solid. The dubstep inclusions are a really effective evolution of the original demo's hard-hitting beat, and it's definitely a head bopper that I could listen to for hours. Number 3 for the Xscape album goes to Chicago. Sorry MJ TikTok fam, I really do like this song with a fabulous vocal performance from MJ and some really hard-hitting bass effects on the remix, but I just think there are 2 tracks on this album that are a little bit stronger. Still, bronze place on my own personal opinionated list is pretty good, and I do listen to this song regularly. The winner for 2nd place on this album goes to Love Never Felt So Good. This song has such a bright, positive energy that starts off the album so well, and is in direct contrast to a lot of the other darker, more edgy songs on the record. I really love the Justin Timberlake version as well as the normal remix with the beefier production. It's a great song that I think could have really fit well on Thriller if they had beefed up the original version.
So therefore, by power of deduction, my favourite 2014 remix on the Xscape album is Blue Gangster. This version has absolutely excellent, gripping, cinematic production that isn't super dated or overproduced. MJ's vocal performance is excellent, and I do think it would have had a perfect home on Invincible if fleshed out more. And also, when listening to this album chronologically, it is such a good palate cleanser from Do You Know Where Your Children Are, which occurs before the song. So yeah, that's my ranking of all the songs on the Xscape album. Just remember that it is my own personal list, okay? If you love songs like Loving You or Do You Know Where Your Children Are, that is great, and I'm glad you can get something out of these songs that I don't. Oh yeah, and if you wanted to know my ranking for the original demos on the Xscape album, here they are. I would discuss this second list in more detail, but honestly, I'd just be repeating myself, and trust me, this video has gone on long enough. So that's it, everyone. That's my deep dive into the 2 posthumous Michael Jackson albums. That's it. That's all there is. There were no other projects auctioned off by the Casio family in 2017 claiming to be fully completed, unreleased Michael Jackson projects. None whatsoever. Looks like I'm not done.
I learned all of his songs, and he said, you know, why don't you take those and start writing?
So, say hello to the Casios again, everybody. Remember how the Casio tracks released on the Michael album caused one of the biggest music controversies of all time, and the inner invalidation of the record itself? Well, it turns out that according to Eddie Casio, Jackson actually recorded a whole album's worth of material in 2007 that went fully unreleased. That was until 10 years later in 2017, when in the thick of the Michael album controversy, the Casios would put a copy of these 12 Casio recordings on CD up for auction under the name of the Bible album. Even though there has been so much evidence and downright confessions that Michael Jackson did not sing on these songs, so much so that the Casio tracks have been removed from the original version of the Michael album on streaming services, it wouldn't be a full review of the posthumous Michael Jackson album rollout without at least touching on the Bible album. We won't be going in depth here, I only save that level of analysis for real Michael Jackson songs. But I think it would be fun to take a look at this weird fraudulent oddity to see whether any of these songs are at least decent to listen to. Plus, I think this will be the first time that anyone online actually gives a critical opinion on the Bible album, so there's a neat little bonus for you. But the thing is, these tracks are notoriously hard to find. They only auctioned off one of those CDs, so I'm gonna have to travel to the location of the only copy of the Bible album and give it an exclusive gatekept listen in order to do my review. Let's take a journey.
Well, if I want to learn more about the Bible album, I might as well go straight to the source. The full version of the Bible album was leaked onto YouTube for you all to listen to. Shit.
Well, the first track off the ranks on the Bible album is the previously released Monster. And you all know what I think about that song. Okay, well the next track on Bible is Breaking News. Okay, I know Michael Jackson didn't sing on these songs in my opinion, but can we at least get some new fake Michael Jackson songs to listen to? This song is also. The third track on the Bible album is called Stay. Mate, Post Malone is fucking quaking, I'm sure. This track just sounds like a stereotypical moody romance tune plucked straight off of Audio Jungle. I think the lyrics and the choruses are okay, but aside from that, the track just sounds again like a carbon copy of Bobby Brown's song Roni. I guess the Casios are Bobby Brown fans. Who knew? Track 4 is Keep Your Head Up. We all know what I think of this song, but honestly not as bad as the other Casio tracks. Next up we have Everything's Just Fine. No it isn't! Okay, the backing of this track is just a carbon copy of Stranger in Moscow. They even ripped the same drum pattern straight out of the song with a similar melody structure too. Ah, they're ripping off already existing MJ tracks, taking a note from LA Reid, I hear, Casio. All I have to say is that Michael's vocals don't have the same bite that the other songs that are verifiably his from this era do. Just listen to this chorus. Not only does it, in my opinion, sound nothing like Michael, but I don't know, he just sounds really drained of power in his vocals. Just listen to Best of Joy if you want an actually comforting Michael Jackson song. Track 6 is Black Widow. No, this isn't an ode to arachnids or Scarlett Johansson, but I tell you, it's not a great start when you're already stealing ad-libs from previous MJ songs in the opening 30 seconds. At least this song isn't as comatose as the other ones. I think some of the production elements are pretty cool, like the electric riffs and that 80s style synth, and maybe this could have been a pretty decent MJ track if MJ actually put his vocals onto it. It's better than the other songs, but still a bit bare production-wise towards the end and quite derivative of songs like Morphine and This Place Hotel. Up next on the Bible album is Burn Tonight, which is Eddie Casio's take on a Latin wave Michael Jackson song. See, this type of song makes sense for someone like Jason Malachi to sing, who had previously sung Latin wave songs like Mamacita that were mistaken to be MJ songs by tabloid media outlets. But for Michael Jackson, I don't know about Burn Tonight. For me, the vocals on this track sound even less like MJ here than on any other song on Bible, especially with lyrics that sound like the first pass of a writer's demo. Yeah, despite this song doing something different with its genre and a pretty neat trumpet solo in the middle of the track, it just sounds really out of place for someone that sounds like Michael Jackson to sing on this song. Track 8 is All I Need, and this is We Are the World. This is just a bad production imitation of We Are the World with some piano elements from You Are Not Alone thrown in the mix. This feels like another Peace on Earth anthem type of song similar to Keep Your Head Up, and man does this track drag. It doesn't really increase in energy like songs like Heal the World and Earth Song do, so while the piano is well played, it's just a little bit comatose and doesn't go all the way with it. Next. The next track is called Water. Not to be confused with a different song that MJ was actually working on at the same time, also called Water. There's a moment in the This Is It film that many people at the time thought validated the Casio tracks, where Michael was supposedly singing the chorus to this song. But it was later found that it was likely singing this other song of the same name. There's not much else to this track behind that little tidbit of coincidence, just another bland, slow-moving ballad, more fake-sounding vocals, and even more lyrical plagiarism from already existing MJ songs. Next up we have Fall in Love. Is that a request or a threat? Oh my lord, the vocals on this one are absolutely awful. Listen to how flat these lyrics are.
Tear me apart, break my heart.
You know, Casio, saying the vocals don't sound like MJ due to the auto-tune and Melodyne isn't a valid excuse if the vocals are still out of tune on the finished track. Another bland love ballad. The sheer amount of similar sounding songs on this Michael Jackson album just emphasizes its inauthenticity in my opinion. On Jackson's previous albums, he would experiment and play around with all sorts of different sounds, genres and topics, with only 1 or 2 romance ballads making the final track list of each album. So yeah, the fact that we've gotten about 5 on the Bible album so far just makes me very skeptical. Let's just finish this damn album before I get sued for stating my own opinion. The second to last track on this project is called Ready to Win. And is it just me, or does this song sound very similar in production and lyrical progression to Keep Your Head Up? Oh no, they're copying already existing Casio tracks. How deep does this rabbit hole go? But on those lyrics, man are they bland. It's just stock standard lyrics about getting your chance and taking the leap. I think Jackson was a little above using those simple similes in his songs around this era, especially when you hear the lyrical complexities of other posthumous songs like Hollywood Tonight. This song's mixing is also really weird, just listen to this final chorus. Doesn't Michael's voice sound really quiet. Like, I feel like I need a stethoscope to just hear it. And once again, the final progressions of this song just blatantly copy You Are Not Alone. I would comment on how odd this is, but given the mass amounts of plagiarism already on this album, I'm amazed they were able to get this far without a cease and desist. But here we are, the last track on Bible. Will we get at least one diamond in the rough on this project? Well, with a name like Soulja Boy, it's gonna be tough. This song literally sounds like if NSYNC attempted to plagiarize They Don't Care About Us and Morphine. It's such a bare, lame sounding song too, with the choruses, say it with me now, sounding nothing like Michael Jackson. And that was the Bible album. And before you ask, no, I'm not gonna rank these songs. I don't think I have the willpower. In my opinion, these are some of the most derivative, bare-sounding, and perplexing releases ever allegedly sung by Michael Jackson. Not only do they sound nothing like the man himself, but the fact that they're so similar to already released MJ hits is straight up bizarre. Each track feels plagiarized from something, even down to the same sounding melodies, lyrics, and production elements, which just spells out their inauthenticity to me. The only two songs I thought were above throwaway were Keep Your Head Up and Black Widow. And to be honest, given the simplistic lyrical and production quality of all these songs, I doubt whether Michael Jackson would want to sing on them in the first place. But the final takeaway I had from the Bible album was just how good the official posthumous Michael Jackson albums sound in comparison.
If it wasn't supposed to be, it wouldn't be this good.
Believe me, there have been several sins in the creation of the Michael and Xscape albums, including 3 of the Casio tracks, and advertising them as Michael Jackson songs is likely the biggest, followed by the hologram performance and changes to Jackson's lyrics and production on some songs. It is perfectly reasonable to assume that when you purchase a Michael Jackson CD off the shelf, you are not only listening to a song sung by Michael Jackson, but that you are listening to the wholly uncensored vision of Michael Jackson as well. And for parts of Xscape, and especially the Michael album, this hasn't been the case. And coming into this video, I was fully ready to dismiss these two albums based on these faults. But putting the various controversies and inconsistencies aside for a second to talk about the music, I'm happy to report that the grand majority of these tracks are actually pretty excellent. And honestly, some of my favourites across MJ's catalogue. Even Xscape's 2014 remixes, despite some outliers, really do feel like a 2010s MJ song, given that for a lot of them, the core essence of the demo is still present, and is simply updated with modern production and instrument elements. And I can completely understand the argument against these remixes, but I mean, at least the content that we got on both of these albums were original pieces. I mean, just look at the Bible album. We could have gotten an album of derivative songs that don't offer anything new and simply harken back to Jackson's old hits, and believe me, the Michael album was starting to go down that road. But I'm so happy that 70% of Michael and all of Xscape offer new ideas and completely new song experiences. So, do I think the posthumous Michael Jackson albums are good? Well, in the current state they are on streaming, yes, I do. Obviously, it's very hard to forget the missteps these albums faced in the past, and honestly, you shouldn't, given how fraudulent and scummy these actions were. But putting all that aside for one moment and focusing on the music that we can readily listen to, I love almost every track on both of these albums. There was a point in time where Hold My Hand was my favourite MJ song, and just look at the resurgence of Chicago as a viral TikTok track. If a 10-year-old remix of an early 2000s demo can get this much traction online, then it must be good, damn it. But here's another question I know a lot of you are wondering. Which do I prefer, Michael or Xscape? I think purely judging the musical quality of the two projects, both albums in their current forms are pretty great, and each album succeeds over the other in key areas. The Michael album has a more strong creative vision than Xscape as a method of finishing off Jackson's final demos, but on the other hand, Xscape has more strong individual songs from various different MJ eras. The Michael album, I believe, has better sounding production as a whole than Xscape, that fits closer in line with Jackson's original visions for the songs. Meanwhile, Xscape just feels more like a Michael Jackson album rather than a tribute record, with its great title and cover artwork and quite excellent album sequencing. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that putting aside the controversy, this album is better, but this album is better. They're on pretty equal playing field when it comes to musical quality. But when you take into account the controversy surrounding the two albums, and the fact that 30% of the Michael album is essentially a fraud, then Xscape is better, hands down, no comparison. Yeah, the hologram performance is unethical and a little bit disgusting, but at least the estate didn't lie to the public and tell them that it wasn't a hologram and that Jackson really did resurrect himself to perform on stage at the 2014 Billboard Awards. The fake songs on the Michael album are inexcusable, and it's such a shame that it taints the album as a whole, because the other 7 tracks are fabulous and well in line with Jackson's other released works. But because of that, Xscape notches ahead in my opinion. So, at the start of this video, I said that posthumous albums are a really great way of maintaining an artist's legacy and notoriety, as well as celebrating their talent and musical influence. Is this the case with Michael and Xscape? Well, unfortunately, I don't think so. The external controversies surrounding these two albums were so strong that it clouded the artist's legacy and called into question his musical influence. And to be clear, this is not Michael Jackson's doing. The controversies surrounding these two releases are the faults of Sony Music, the Casio family, and the Michael Jackson estate. It's hard to celebrate a man's talent if you aren't 100% sure if he is even singing on the song in question. Which absolutely sucks because, as I've said time and time again throughout this video, in their current states, these are good albums. But it seems like, similar to many other aspects of Michael Jackson's life, the external public relations controversies overshadow the man's musical output and talent. So, those were the posthumous Michael Jackson albums. One question I see a lot is whether it's a good idea to make a third posthumous MJ album given the vast amount of controversy both of these albums received. People say that a third album could right the wrongs of the first two and bring new MJ music more commercial attention, and I certainly agree. But in my opinion, there are better ways of releasing unreleased music and demos than putting out new 8-track albums. But how does that make sense? How can you release new music without releasing new albums, I hear you asking? Well, Michael Jackson already did it in 2004 with the release of Michael Jackson, The Ultimate Collection. And so sometime down the line, I'd like to talk about that project and how the estate can use the Ultimate Collection format to put out new unreleased music. But until then, thank you so much for sticking to the end of this video. I'm absolutely overwhelmed at the response the MJ Estate video did, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed watching me rant and rave about do you know where your children are for like 20 minutes. I really like making these MJ videos as it really starts another conversation with regards to Michael Jackson's music in the lead up to the MJ biopic in October. But as I say at the beginning of all these videos, I am a filmmaker through and through. So I'd really love to branch out and do videos on a bunch of other topics that I'm passionate about, whether it be movies, video games, or other musical artists. I'd really love to make some videos about the processes of filmmaking and my appreciation for different films and movies, as well as the MJ stuff. So let me know if you'd really enjoy seeing that in the future. But until then, I just want to say thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whenever or whatever it may be. See you guys later.
Neighbors, everybody needs good neighbors with a little understanding. You can find the perfect blend.